call the meeting to order. It's at 9 o'clock.
We do
Roll call.
Jim Sheeline, Mike Book, Tom Kitson, Larry Memini,
Here.
Tim Bibbins.
Here.
Nancy Naylor.
Present.
Jennifer Dallas.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes, or corrections? Okay. Seeing none or hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Nancy, seconded by Tim. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the previous meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Nay, those opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. The next item is, we'll go down, we don't have any old business on the agenda. The next item is new business and department head presentations. We'll start with the coroner and the IT department. You go ahead.
Yes, here, let me turn that on for you. So I guess what I'm asking, you probably saw, is a raise for the salary of coroner for $2,500 per year. How I come to that is basically I did a little research from other populated counties that match Lee County. And I found that Christian County is a population of 32,584. And again, this is all from the 2020 census. Their coroner makes 53,447. Livingston County is a population of 33,650 with a salary of 59,000. And Stevenson County is 38,704 population with a salary of 45,625. And so I just, the last raise that we got in 2020, which in my honest opinion, I think was a slap in the face. Resolution back in May of 20 was a $100 raise in 2020, $100 raise in 21, $100 raise in 22, $100 raise in 2023, which amounted to 27 cents a day, if you average that out, which is kind of pathetic for an office that's on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Line item for salary. Is it on that preliminary page or on the second page? We never see like an actual breakdown of the department heads' pay and their employees. So
It's gonna be all in that first line item up there that's on the screen. Salaries officer.
it's 42. something,
That's what
right?
it was
That's what it
for
was.
last year.
That's what I was trying to find
Yep.
out. What
It was, 41.5, December 1, 2023.
you are full time, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Which a lot of people think this office is part-time, but it's really not.
I thought it was part time.
So,
And didn't, when we had, remember way back, when you had hired somebody to help you in the office and we were sharing that person with another office, what happened to that?
she's still here. Lori
She's still here?
is
Okay.
working at the LEC with me and the sheriff. So we split. Basically I think the last time we discussed her salary was that I think it was 20% of my budget went to her salary and then 80% came out of the sheriff's department for her salary. So that's the way John Symington had it set up when he was sheriff. I think it was the last year that he was sheriff, maybe, that we brought Lori on board from the clerk's office. Because John
I
was,
remember now.
John was looking to have a second secretary
Uh-huh.
at the sheriff's office. but I believe he was denied that. And then he came up with the idea of sharing. So, because I knew that we weren't going to get another full-time in the coroner's office after Marty passed away. Remember when Marty, so when she passed and was here at the office, so we had the idea of sharing Lori, so, which has worked out well, so.
What were those numbers you had? Because we always say, let's compare ourselves with other counties in the same, but there's so many stuff that it's hard to compare apples to apples. That was 50 something and 45 something.
So Christian County is a population close to ours, is 32,584. They have a salary of 53,447 for their coroner. Livingston County is a population of 33,650 with a salary of 59,000. Stevenson County is a population of 38,704 with a salary of 45,625.
Do you have Ogle and Whiteside and Bureau?
Ogle, I don't, Bureau, they never got back to me. Ogle is roughly, I want to say, if I remember the numbers, 12 to 15,000 people bigger than us. I believe maybe even more, closer to 20. He's making, I think, 60,000+, but he has full-time deputies. He has 3 full-time deputies that just went union, and they're upwards of $50,000 a deputy they're making. So
On your salary, I know, like with the sheriff, it's set prior to, or it used to be set prior to the term for
Correct.
the next 4 years. You
correct, same
follow
way.
the same.
correct.
So what you're citing is
What I'm asking
what
for is
what was set before for the term.
correct.
When's your term up? I should know this.
Well, I'll have election coming in November,
This November.
this November.
So
Yes, so we're trying to set it for the next 4 years.
Okay.
So what I'm
okay,
asking for is the 2,500 per year.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay.
That helps.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news for you guys. Do you know the statutes on that? Because you have to have that set 180 days before your election. Did anybody process that? Because that 180 days is way past.
Well, then why are we having budget hearings in July and August?
Why
I mean,
for the next year?
Well, the county's
is-
probably been in violation for a number of years.
Yeah.
If that's the case, because. I'm
No,
sure
no.
The sheriff's was set prior.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, the sheriff's
comes
is
from
now
the state.
set by the state.
It is now set, but I'm going back in time now.
Sure. And it was set for a 4-year term.
Right.
Jesse's was set for a 4-year term. So he's right when he says he got $100 raise every year. It was set 4 years ago in 2020 for 21, 22, 23, 24.
It was set to December 1st, 2023.
Yeah, meaning fiscal year
Yeah,
24.
Right.
So
so this resolution was passed by the Lee County Board 21st day of May, 2020.
correct. And then your budget is for your salary is basically set every year for that 4 years. That's why you have budget hearings in July, August, September. For elected officials, their budget or their salary is basically set 4 years before for every year.
So when would the next time,
You'd have to wait another 4 years, is what you're saying.
Say it again. I'm
If you've missed the 180-day cycle, requirement, then you're saying you have to wait another 4 years.
Sure sounds like it to me.
We need
Okay.
to,
I think
Well,
we'd
we
probably.
need to confirm
look
with the
into
state's
that.
attorney.
Yeah, we need legal opinion on that, on this one, because I'm not sure it's
yeah,
always been.
I think
done
in
that
lieu
way.
of having an argument about something,
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
saying you
like
can't,
this.
I'm giving you guys the heads up. I'm not saying you can or cannot do something.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, hey, wait a minute. If your election or your cycle is up here in November and you're supposed, your election cycle is in November, that should have been set in May of 2024 is what the statute reads.
But we didn't have the budget hearings in May.
But we don't always
Well,
have
it's-
How are we-
that.
It's independent of the budget hearings.
Yeah, this,
Is it
yeah,
amended?
this, that
I
salary,
mean, the-
that is independent. I mean, it technically is technically is up to the elected official to bring that to the board. To say, here's my salary request for the next term.
Well,
So you guys do, I mean,
This must have been brought up then before, if it was in May of
It was-
2020.
yeah.
So. Well, I hope a window wasn't missed here.
Well,
Well,
then
it's,
we're gonna do it, I guess.
as the judges always say, we'll take under advisement and talk to the state attorney,
yeah. Yeah, I think that's your best approach
Yeah.
because,
because we're just listening this morning anyways.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
well,
You're not
absolutely.
Acting on anything, correct?
No,
Right,
no,
so.
we can't, no.
I have a question for Paul. Do you remember what, we had the same issue here with the circuit clerk, the assessor, and the treasurer's office, where we were trying to make the wages, the elected officials' wages compatible with each other.
Correct.
What did we do then? Do you remember?
Yeah.
We did the same thing, hundred and
You
eighty
did-
days?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I just want to make
yeah.
sure we're
So May
fair to
of,
all the departments.
May of 22, you set the county clerk's salary, my salary, and at that time, we set the sheriff's salary. But the state came in like a week later, that was late May of 22, with the state rule or law, whatever you want to say, that the sheriff's salary is now a percentage of the state's attorney's office. So basically, the state sets that. The board does not set that anymore.
Right.
But for the other two, yes. Yeah, there's a resolution out there that, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So,
just
I mean,
wanted to make sure we did the same
I'm just
thing.
telling you what the statute is. I'm just giving you guys the heads up,
Yeah,
what
well, I
the
appreciate
statute
that,
is.
yeah, that's good to know. But certainly we'll talk to the finance chairman and the state's attorney and make sure that that's,
Absolutely.
we have an opinion on that.
Okay. Is that the main point? I guess, sorry, I don't want to minimize that at all, but is there other things that you want to talk about in the budget or?
The only thing I ever question is I don't know how you guys like us going to Ogle County, but to me, it's kind of a pain in the butt using them. I mean, we're just giving them money,
Using them for what?
using Ogle County morgue. Anytime we have to store a body or we have to have an autopsy. So every time we have to transport a body to Ogle County, have the autopsy done, transport the body back, to the county, to wherever funeral home it's gonna go to, and that's $500 each time. So, I mean, right now it's been a wash up to date. We ran some numbers, from 12/1 to 6/30. We've given them $6,500 to Ogle County. From the beginning of the time that we started using Ogle County, we've given them $18,900. And we've brought in money close to that figure. I think it's just under 18,000. So every time, the way the county coroner's office makes money is we issue cremation permits to funeral homes that are going to cremate a body. So everybody that dies in Lee County that's going to be cremated, the funeral home must issue $100 to the coroner's office, and then we issue the permit to cremate. We authorize them to go ahead with the cremation. That's how the coroner's office makes money. So right now, Ogle County is bringing into their morgue Lee County, Stevenson County, Rock Island County, and Bureau County to do autopsies. So if he wanted to, he could charge all three of us the use of their morgue, and I'm not sure if he is or not. I know he's charging us to use the use of the morgue. If we had something similar to what he has, I'm not asking for a brand new building, but if we had something similar to where we could bring in Rock Island County, we could bring in Bureau County, we could bring in different counties and make some sort of money that way as well. But right now we're just giving it all to Ogle County.
Jesse, what would you need, constructed or purposed for you to operate in that capacity?
We wouldn't need any like office space because the offices that we have right now at the LEC are working, especially with Lori out there being half with the sheriff's office. So really, we would just need a building that would house, say, a cooler for roughly a half a dozen people. And then a space for the actual autopsy itself, maybe a little viewing room for people that need to make identification. So nothing more than, I would say, 10,000 square feet, maybe. I mean,
And do you have any idea like what those coolers might cost?
I just purchased a 3-man cooler right before COVID times for my funeral home, and that was roughly $6,000, and that was a 3-man cooler.
Is 3-man enough, or
He's looking for probably
Um,
12.
is it like gun safes where it's like 12 guns, but really like 6 fit in there? Like a body. and
I
a
would
half.
say, yeah, I mean, most of the time when the counties come to Ogle County to do their autopsies, they're in and out. They bring their body, they wait for it to be done, and then they leave with it. So there's really no storage. So Lou Finch up there in Ogle County has a cooler, I believe that, if I had to guess, looking at it, is maybe 10 foot by 12 foot, and it'll fit easily 5 people, 6 people.
And then
So-
are we thinking we could do, how hard is it to do an autopsy? I know I can't do it, Nancy.
I mean, there's a,
Finance, you just imagine the headline, finance vice chair now doing autopsies, like, well, they're in a budget crunch.
We're trying to save money, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
Trying to save
it got serious at the Tuesday meeting.
There's
I know
an
I'm on
actual-
record. If someone listens to this, they can have a laugh.
They are listed.
there is an actual workstation that needs to be installed. So, I mean, with proper drainage and working plumbing and, yeah. So there is an actual autopsy station. We do not
Oh,
know. I mean, we did with KSB,
sure.
but I had a meeting with KSB couple years ago, and we decided that what their setup is no longer conducive to the way it's set up. It's set up to get somebody hurt, honestly. So we just stopped using it because my deputies, and that's another thing I'd like to talk about, is that, they're not full-time deputies with the county. So I got one that's roughly 48 years old, who's been with me from the early times of the funeral home years ago and got into the coroner's office. I've got 2 more. One's a retired fireman, one's a retired police officer, and they're in their 60s, so when they're on call, they're using advanced ambulance quite a bit, just for the help. I mean, because people aren't, they're not getting any lighter. I'm sorry to say, but they need help. One man just can't go on a call, and physically, yeah. So they don't want to get hurt, and I don't blame them. So I encourage them to use whatever they need to use. So, but
Can I go back to I'm sorry. Was it? You're laughing, okay. I just want to make a point financially. If you're saying that, going back to the new stuff that you might want to build, if we're at Wash right now, do you think we still really should pursue that for the future? I
well,
mean, if you're looking at Wash, why should we
Right.
spend more money?
well, I understand.
You
I
know what
see
I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I also think what's going to happen, and I'm not saying it's ever going to happen, but what if we're transporting a body to Ogle County and we end up in an accident of some reason that you know what I mean? And we're going to have a lawsuit, I can see, especially if that loved one's in the back of my squad car and can't get them out, whatever. Again, my deputies, they're not going to do something to get them hurt because they're not covered. I mean, right now they're a liability, I would think, to the county. So
Jesse, do you have I know we talked about this last year, but did you have a written proposal last year on a breakdown of, so if you, would you say you spent 6,000 for a cooler for 3?
Mhm.
Okay, so what's that, 24,000 for a dozen? That, did I do my math right?
Well, I mean, I think you could, they make like I say, a 8-man cooler. You know, you're probably gonna spend $8,000 to $10,000 probably.
Okay, so then the building would be the other issue, the 10,000 square feet.
Right, and I wouldn't need anything special. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, even, no, I think it's a lot, but I'm just looking at the cost of the building renting or whatever. And so where I'm going with this is, you said other counties may use this, which is where the money would come in.
Right,
Hopefully
other revenue,
be on
right.
the plus side.
right.
I think what I'd like to see is a breakdown and some conversation with these other counties, because it's easy to say they might use it, but if we have a written agreement, say, hey, we're building this as a regional morgue,
Mhm.
and there's an agreement in place or an intent, at least that we have a proposal and we know where we're going and what dollars are going to come in from that could pay for this. Because if it ends up being, as Larry said, a wash on the other side, that
Right.
you put the money in and then
Right.
we've got it back, we would know that. But I think we need a lot more detail on that. So I'm not opposed to the idea, but I just need to see numbers and a plan where this is going and what it'll do and if it's feasible.
Well, I remember, I don't know how many months or a year and a half ago, that I had plans from Ogle County, their morgue set up, and gave them, I believe we brought them to Becky's office to give to Mr. Wilson to maybe look at what was in the old jail, if that was even feasible, to even use part of their garage and revamp, say, a garage bay or somewhere we could pull in, bring the body out and put it into a cooler, but I never heard any word back, I guess.
Okay.
So,
Well, certainly something I think this committee would be interested in looking at as far as the dollars go and what.
okay.
Okay.
I mean,
Good question, but what about the existing jail, the LEC? You don't think there's enough room over there?
no,
No?
I mean, one time when they were building it, I mean, John Symington had the morgue in the plans. And we went in one day for a meeting and we're looking at them and I realized that they were taken out with no discussion from me or anybody, because he went over his, whatever the budget was, $1.9 million he didn't want to spend. So he took my office out of it. It all could have been eliminated and all of this could have been eliminated. The talk, if he would have just kept it in there, it would have been fine. Have everything right in one building. And, but it got taken out and here we are. So, and now we're, going from KSB to Ogle County to sometimes my place storing bodies because I have too many. So, we're just kind of all over the place, and it would just be kind of nice to have one central location. And like I said, I don't need offices because the office out in LEC is doing just fine. I would just need a place to, instead of traveling 20 minutes every time to do an autopsy and then go back up and bring the body back. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Liam, where the money is a wash. I get it, but nobody else is doing it except me and my deputies sometimes. So
What do you do when you just made a comment that when you have too many bodies, what do you do? I mean, as funeral home, aside from the coroner's office.
well, if some of them can be embalmed, then we can embalm them. We don't need to use refrigeration for an embalmed body. So,
But
we
what do
can
you
make
do?
up
I mean,
space.
so you've got 5 and you have what do you do with them? Because the situation you're describing with,
well, so, okay, say some of them need to be cremated, then we can take them to our crematory and hold them there because we have cooler space there that we use. I don't have one personally. We use Finch Funeral Home Crematory
okay,
in
so
Mount
you're-
Morris. So if there's people that we have an overflow at the funeral home, then yes, we can take whatever bodies are not having, say, services or anything, and they are going to be cremated, we can move them to offsite location. So.
Okay. I was just thinking about all of this. There's a whole process here that I think we all take for granted. At least I do, that, you know. Okay. Is there anything else? I think we talked. Yeah.
Oh, I just had a question.
Yeah.
So, is Lori's salary in what we have for the budgeted numbers? Is she included in the officer line?
No, she's gonna be in the full-time line, Reed, because
Okay.
that's the 20 or 25, I can't remember the percentage, but
Yeah.
so there's a salary value in the sheriff's, or should be in the sheriff's line for her. And then Jesse's got one here too.
Okay, but
Right.
So
what
we
just
actually
don't
need to
have
put
anything
that in there.
budgeted for that for FY 25.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
And I guess I was,
But wasn't
you
Lori,
said the a $25,000 increase a year in salary, and that's like 10,000, right?
No, he was
I didn't
talking
know if it
about,
was-
he was talking about 2,500 per year for the next 4 years, correct, Jesse?
correct?
Right, but
Well, it looks
it's-
like it's all there
yeah,
in,
that's,
in 25 from,
Yeah,
this
it's
year
not
to
10,000 a year. It's 20
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
2,500 a year, sorry.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So
Yeah,
really
so
the
I- okay.
25 budget should say 20 or 40.
I mean, I'm optimistic.
45,000.
Yeah, 45, 46, whatever, yeah.
yeah, so we can make those tweaks.
Sure.
But I think what we need to validate with the sheriff's department is Lori's in at full value and we don't, I see what you're saying. There's nothing there under the full salary full-time. There's nothing there. I mean, there was there in 24, but you're saying in the 25 budget, it looks like it's blank.
Right.
So we just need to make sure if the sheriff's budget shows it as full, we pull, is it, I can't remember.
The
if it's-
sheriff's budget
whatever
shows
it
it
is,
at,
whatever
20 or
20%,
20 or 25%,
right.
we put it into that.
the sheriff's budget has it at 75%. So they're taking 75% of Lori's salary into their budget. So-
Okay, so we could
we
put
need to put-
25% into
Yeah.
this one.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's an easy fix
And I believe her salary was set
through
from
the FOP.
the FOP contracts. So,
Correct.
so yeah,
Yeah.
already, yeah.
And then your salary part-time is your deputies.
Is my
that-
deputies,
yeah.
right? So right now, our on-call deputies receive $115 on a 24-hour call shift. So, which in turn is $4.80 an hour. Which I think again is a little ridiculous for asking somebody to be on call and for $4 an hour. We're well aware that they're not working all 24 hours, but they must stay, we ask them to stay within the Lee County, boundaries during those times. Sometimes they're called out or sometimes they're not, but sometimes they are called 3 or 4 times a night, which we've had. So we're just asking for a raise on their end as well. Try to be in line with a little more than minimum wage. I know minimum wage right now is $14 an hour. I'm not asking to jump it that high, but the last time minimum wage was $4.80 was roughly 1993, I think.
The minimum wage when you're on call.
No, I know
Yeah,
that.
you can't do that.
No,
They'd be
but,
getting $400 a day.
right, but still,
I'm just saying.
it's
you
better
know.
than $50,000 a
Yeah,
year,
I know.
like some counties are making as deputies, so. But, so, I would like you guys to take that in consideration as well and maybe give them a little bump too.
Is that the
So,
line item from
it should be the part-time,
part-time?
so. That's all I have unless you guys have any other questions, so.
The only thing, I'll channel Jim since he's not here. And he said it to everybody else, but we are looking to utilize as much as we can from our restricted funds and asking our department heads to look where they can use restricted funds. So that I think you have the coroner restricted fund budget. Anything that we can push out of county general to those restricted funds to release some of those restrictions would be much appreciated.
And again, the reason for that is, I don't know if you've been watching it all, but we do have about a $1.4 million gap that we're trying to work with here, from projected revenues to what the initial budget drafts had come in at. So that's why it's a little bit it's going to be a tight year.
In those restricted funds that Jim's talking about, we do get grant money, but that grant money comes to the coroner's office and it is used strictly for equipment and
Yeah,
things,
the
tangible
corner
things of that
fund-
nature.
The corner fund, I looked at I mean, I guess I don't know if it's grant money. I guess I was thinking it was certain fees that the coroner's office could get. And based on the statute, it said, yes, you can use it for equipment and forensic activity, as well as any of the other operational expenses for the coroner's office.
Right, and that your line item you're talking about is the $100 cremation permits that come into the
Okay.
office. So
Yeah.
that's what,
Yep.
that's what we're talking about there. So
The only other question I might have, Jesse, is for the contractual services line. What do we, last year we budgeted $51,000. We're looking at, year to date when this came through is at 26. So I guarantee we're over that, but we're looking at a run rate of 39. What all comes out of that we might see an uptick, or is there something that we could trim out from that?
all of those contractual service line item is to be paid for any toxicology samples that need to be ran and autopsies. That's it.
And so that's where Ogle County's costs go into.
Correct. So I would say we pay Ogle County out of the
Corner
The
fund.
corner fund, yeah, out of that coroner's fund line item. Until I don't think we pay contractual services out of there. I don't know, maybe we
Well,
do.
I mean, so the only expense line item, and maybe this is just a coding thing that we need to talk with whomever's putting in the stuff, to my viewpoint, but the only expenses that we have out of the corner fund this year is like $1,200. So I think we're looking at a run rate of $2,000 for the year. That'd be that bottom section. I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
it up there, but so yeah, I guess the way that that's broken down is the top section is what is being recorded out of your portion of the general fund, and then the bottom three accounts are the ones that are the corner fund specifically. But so we haven't really recorded much in terms of expense in FY '24. If that was, not correct, there's no reason we can't adjust it to make it correct this year if it was supposed to be run out of that miscellaneous expense line. I mean, we'll just need to do a little digging, and you guys let us know what needs to be adjusted.
So we budgeted 51,000 for contractual services last year, correct?
Yep, yeah.
And
It's
we
about,
spent 39,000 already this year. Okay.
no, we're at 26. Wow. This is,
Oh, I'm sorry.
this was
Looking at the
generated a
wrong-
little bit ago, right? But so when we generated it, there was $26,000 of expense in that contractual service line item. We projected out, assuming that you're gonna have a similar spend rate for the
You
remaining
projected
months
out
of
to
the year than what
39,000.
you had, we would expect you to get to that
Okay.
$39,000-$40,000.
I mean,
right? So
and-
you're shy of the budgeted amount by 11,000.
Right.
It sounds like that particular line item is just going to be
But I think we've
somewhat
always,
dependent on what happens during the year, right? You could
Right.
have a lot of toxicology reports that you need to run versus
or have
none at all.
a lot of
or whatever,
autopsies
right?
that need to be done too. I can't,
Sure.
yeah, we can't
Right.
predict it. And I think
Right.
that's what we did
Yep.
in the past, was just basically take a median number out of the last 5 years and put it in there. So.
Sure.
Okay, I think we did a thorough autopsy on your budget.
No joke.
Mike, what are you gonna come up with IT for with your?
Yeah, IT is next.
So, all right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
Budget. So most of my expenses are other people's expenses. So, and I tend to give either yes or no answers or really long answers, and to be respectful of your time, don't hesitate just to go slow down, stop. Okay. So where would you like me to start? At the beginning?
Well, what has gone up?
Well, I usually throw in 90,000 a year for me for the last few years. But the treasurer's department usually just backs it down to whatever they left it in there this time.
Well,
So,
oh, no, 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 we
we'll just-
don't touch it. It's
Yeah.
the board's decision.
yeah, I know. So, and I appreciate that if we could get a little bit more of a raise and be in terms of being competitive with the lower end of what system administrators or in network IT directors are gaining in Northern Illinois and Southern Wisconsin now for the type of responsibility and the number of devices and departments that we manage. I'm also responsible to not only to the county board, but I have my own state mandates to deal with Department of Innovation and Technology, adhering to our cybersecurity risk guidelines and federal FBI CGIS guidelines for security on data, which all have a price tag on them. And what I've been trying to do is manage that price tag. So the vendors that are calling and say, this will only cost you $90,000 a year. And I'm like, hey, that's not going to happen. I need to come up with something else to do these security things. So my own skill sets, try to apply my own background in network management, system management, cybersecurity, and apply it to managing the budget here, working with Jeremy, department heads, elected officials as best I can. And so I believe that wage is a fair representation of the low end of an IT director given, and I want to be also respectful of the wages offered from the general fund and the like to department heads and elected officials. So I don't want to go crazy and look for some Chicago commercial end, price range or something like that. And then the range for my staff, and I've broken this out ever since I've been here. So it's not mixed. So it's me and then that's just to be competitive and to keep that staff around. Jonathan Henriksen is a valuable asset to the county, and Travis Null is proving to be exceptionally inspirational in his own quiet way every day. So I really appreciate those people's support on my team. And if it wasn't for them executing a plan we developed for that recent CrowdStrike hiccup, we wouldn't have had everything up and going by 10 a.m. in the morning it happened. So we also have responded to a number of cybersecurity potential threats in a very quick manner, and where the Department of Innovation and Technology, where I have kind of a semi-reporting relationship with, has been very impressed with how we respond to potential cybersecurity threats and what we're trying to do here. They would like to see some more security in terms of isolation of servers and the like. So this is where I believe my skill set along with my team warrants the wages here. And also I'm trying to do whatever I can to for the rest of the budget, manage it in a responsible manner, having been a county board member myself many years ago. So
Can I ask you a technical IT question?
sure.
A while back, and this is public, so I have an insurance agent that was trying to give the county a quote here for insurance services, specifically on the black web. And he said that we were susceptible to that and we didn't have anything.
I wouldn't know specifically what that person's,
Like we have no-
there's a dark,
We have insurance on that.
we have cybersecurity insurance against
Insurance.
threats on our network compromise, ransomware, and an insurance amount that covers up to X amount for third-party assistance in terms of hacking and the like. What that insurance agent is probably talking about is dark web threats. Usually they can apply to businesses and like, but usually that would probably be for an organization like or a county government, probably more like bank routing numbers, banking account numbers, and logins. Now, what I do to help mitigate that is that our one way people communicate often today is via email. Anytime information like that gets exchanged via email, I get an alert. My team gets an alert, and we contact people and say, that's a no-no. Just like you're not supposed to send social security numbers or credit card numbers here. I remember my first 6 months here, there was somebody that sent a credit card number with the expiration date and the 3-digit code in an email. And I was already kind of short because of deployment of the phone system wasn't going all that well. And I just kind of lit into I shouldn't have, but I was just like, we can't do this. And don't do it via text, don't do it via email, because we don't know where that device may wind up on a laptop, may wind up on a phone. If your phone gets stolen, then somebody else has that information. Our treasurer's department's really good. They're not exchanging that type of information. I don't know what other type of information other than possibly users' passwords and the like, and that we're moving forward with, additional two-factor authentication. So not only the password, but you need, some type of text or an app on a phone or a mobile device to authenticate something. But our policy, the way I read it, covers mostly compromises of data here on premise and helping us mitigate a cloud-based hack.
No, I understand. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. It just
Right.
blows my mind that this person knows that we are susceptible. That's what blows my mind.
Well,
They have-
everybody is susceptible. I mean, there's nobody
said we
that
don't- yeah.
that isn't. And I would like to find out,
Yeah.
how they would
Where
think
do they
we're
look for that stuff?
susceptible.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to talk to Jeremy and see what kind of alerting that he would like in terms of the services out there. But typically for a consumer, you can sign up with your credit card number or a company or bank very often to monitor your email address, login information, and certain other information. And if it pops up on these bulletin boards, come up. Now, one instance of the dark web or instance was some hacker group about 2 months ago, maybe now, posted something on their website saying they were going to do a denial of service attack on Lee County, Illinois' website. So the federal government got wind of that, told the state told me. I checked with our vendor. We had 2 little hiccups at 2 a.m. in the morning, and the vendor didn't even report what they call the denial of service attack, because they have a service or a tool in place to mitigate that. And denial of service is simply just saying, somebody knocking on your door all the time, trying to just get you to open or shut down, just, or slow it down significantly. And it didn't have any effect. But we have the federal government and the State Department of Innovation and Technology helping out, keeping an eye out for alert for us, not only us, but other agencies. We're particularly favored for help from these folks, one, because of leads and for the police and fire and all these other systems we use for them, and because of elections. So they keep an eye on us and the activity out there, and they try to alert us to us. But in my 3.5 years, that's the only alert that I'm aware of on the quote unquote dark web. But if somebody like that has information, they pass it along. But again, we do have some insurance against the investigation and restoration of data lost to that. So
On your
and that comes out of I think that's coming out of,
It's probably within CIRMA's
Yeah,
policy.
CIRMA,
There's
so it's not
there's
my
probably a
policy.
rider
Yeah, the
for
rider,
it.
right.
And I guess and you can tell me if this is incorrect, but everyone is susceptible to, or everybody's going to be susceptible to something occurring on the dark web.
correct.
You can either have insurance for it or not, but that is a after the fact. They'll do everything that they can to help you. They will give you money for all it costs to restore back to your original state. But that's not, I mean, probably for the most part, the stuff that is going to be going on in the IT budget are preventative stuff, preventative measures, as well as mitigation for if it happens, how hard is it for us to get back up and running?
Right.
The fact that an insurance individual who is like, I'm not trying to denigrate him, but I mean, they're trying to get us to buy insurance, right, for that particular instance. And to me, we're all susceptible to that. So
We are. And the
whether or
county-
not, I mean, evaluating whether or not that is something we need to consider going forward, I think that's probably true. And we can have those discussions with CIRMA
The
and,
county does have a
and what
cybersecurity
riders we might need to have,
insurance
but that's
policy
probably
already.
outside of
And-
what's going to be in IT's budget.
Yeah, I mean, the county general pays for a cybersecurity policy through CIRMA already. And actually Paul and I just went through that renewal.
Right.
So that's already in place, but
And
as.
that's what I was looking for. I
Yes.
wasn't saying that I
Yep.
know susceptible is a
Yeah.
broad word.
Well, and really, that's only,
We are.
yeah,
well,
we're covered in
we're
terms
covered
of
via
services
insurance.
after the fact. But in terms of services going forward, this is what some new FBI CJIS guidelines are asking us to do. One is make sure that everybody has training. Now, everybody has leads, gets trained, but then we have this KnowBe4 platform for cybersecurity training. We have to increase the adoption for it, and I'll be issuing another training session letter out in the next couple of weeks. So go through that training. Two, what they call multi-factor authentication for different systems and services, and most of those either come out of professional services or software licensing if I'm paying for a separate product. And then pretty much data logging who gets into a computer and who doesn't. And this is the big thing. They want us to track things and try to catch it in advance. Now, tools that we already have in place, I don't want to mention them all, but I mentioned one already, CrowdStrike. They mentioned logins and they log logins and the like, and they have a kind of a safety net over all of our devices. We have other solutions, but I'd rather not talk about them in open and, expose holes in it. But we have one other one that I'm going to be actually testing this afternoon after this meeting to see if we can help meet certain data logging for servers and workstations without having to pay for a separate pricey product to meet the new CJIS guidelines coming out in October. So I've already spoken to Mike McBride and 911 about it, talking to a couple of vendors about it, and talking to another vendor this afternoon about the solution there. So I threatened Jeremy. I said, I may have another ask after the meeting, but I don't think I will. I think it will be good. So, but in terms of the first couple items on the list, this is what my skill set, my persistence, and I think some staff knows here that I'm up all hours of the day worrying about some of this stuff. So, and my team loves to respond because most of the staff here have been very pleasant, say please and thank you when they leave. So it makes it pretty easy to support the staff around here. So any other questions on either specific IT concerns or when we continue going down the budget? Because most of it is longevity, health, IRMF, like professional services. That the big chunk of that is our server hosting with the server base in the bottom or the basement of New Courts, where all my team's going to be relocating in the next few weeks. and software licensing, mostly Microsoft, but other licensing software that we need, Zoom and the like, website hosting,
Okay,
some
you back
social
up to
media.
you have a $15,000 increase in professional services and the software licensing about $9,000.
We picked up some additional seats of Zoom. We picked up some social media integration software. That's it.
So that's for software, the professional services?
Well, professional services, let's take a look.
Oh, okay, I'm
I'll bring
sorry,
it up.
software
No.
licensing, so that's.
You want
just-
professional services?
Is it, well, yeah, both, but
Okay.
since you were on software licensing, is that increases for software or is that additional software?
Increase in licensing. Our licensing
licensing.
for Microsoft is nearly doubled, so.
Yeah, after their little faux pas.
They had one faux pas and this is locked up. So the large increase in software licensing would be for Microsoft licensing. Now in professional services, we've seen increases in the server capacity and licensing for the server software in New Courts, which actually houses old courts, new courts, and some LEC services there, so the professional services is infrastructure as a service. And if you see that on your budget, whenever, usually on claims committee day, you'll see an $8,000 and then a couple other smaller items. That's coming out of professional services for the server maintenance. And since we've expanded the usage for additional GIS space and processing, it's increased the cost going forward. And I also put a little bit in there, expecting an increase possibly for a expansion of the court management system, full court enterprise. But I believe the courts are discussing different options now. So if they change where they host their information, it probably won't affect my request for this year, but it'll reflect the request going forward. One, anything that they change to possibly move to another system might decrease IT support costs for it in a couple different ways. So, but we don't know, and it probably wouldn't happen until the 25-26 budget year. So, any other questions on that?
I think I might have interrupted you at
Sure.
website, or maybe you already answered that. I apologize if you did. Went 13 to 21.
We've added some kind of network or website scanning and analysis software that will tell us how people are using the site and coming into the site. One, for a site redesign in the upcoming year, and two, to work with our vendor and seeing how we can mitigate any threat vectors against it, to see if somebody's trying to poke a hole here or there. So in terms of security, and that jump may be just for this year after we do the redesign and do the analysis of the site. But the tool allows us to look at hotspots on the website where people are coming in, what's the most frequently accessed pages or so on the page too. And then that way, one, when we do a redesign, build something that's more in tune with what the public is using it for, and two, work with our vendor on reducing her footprint for cybersecurity compromise there. But
Thank you.
Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead, Larry.
The telephone, can you explain the telephone? I think I ask you this every year, because I think We see all the budgets, we see telephones, we see cell phones, we see, what do you actually?
Well,
you cover
well,
everybody's?
I don't cover cell phones.
So this is 94,000.
Well, I cover one cell phone. in my
Just
department.
for
94
a telephone system.
for Cindy-O, our partner for professional services for the servers and the infrastructure of service, also provide the basic telephone over internet to us, okay?
Oh, okay.
Which drives down the cost, and then we still have some landline-based fax lines, which I've been looking at ways of, without spending 20 grand to simplify it, to save 5, I'm trying to find a way to eliminate that. Then those bills get paid to Brightspeed, which you might see an occasional Brightspeed during claims, and usually that's the big one across the street. Yeah, but there are 9 different bills that I pay for that. And 3 of them probably won't go away, but I like to reduce that $1,000 one and a couple of the other ones and make them go away. Like to reduce that probably by $10,000 in the next upcoming year. But to do that, I need to buy about $2,500, $3,000 worth of equipment. But that's a one-time upcharge now, a couple dollars extra per month through Cindy-O. But that going forward would be a longer-term cost savings for the county. And that said, we don't see a big increase in the number of telephone numbers that we have, but essentially we have telephone over internet. That's Cindy-O. Most of our numbers are that way. Most of the other lines are fax lines, or a couple lines that we're going to retire now due to some elevator upgrades. Cell phones, other departments take care of cell phones. And I'll just remind anybody that been on the board for a little while, before I got here, the telephones were all paid for individual departments. Sometimes they had a one-line listing through one-line budget item. Sometimes they charge it to a US bank charge and the payment came in this way. All the Cindy-O bills for IP-based phones and all of the Brightspeed come through me now and go through the same line items for your analysis, and you can take a look at it. And you should only see Cindy-O, Brightspeed, there's one and one Verizon and one other small bill coming through those. And in terms of claims, you'll see Cindy-O and the one Brightspeed, which is usually about $1,052 every month. So yeah, which for faxes is crazy, but they still use a lot of paper over in new courts. So. Any questions, any asks of me?
No, thank you.
You sure? Okay.
No, just one quick comment. I think the Microsoft, when that went berserk, I thought did a really fine job in getting up and running, probably quicker than about anybody that I saw. So,
well, you had
appreciate that.
an incident during your county board meeting where you lost on board, and at that time I was investigating something else, and I found out that I got a couple of calls from meeting people here saying onboard was down, another service was down. I was looking at that, and then an hour and a half later, the CrowdStrike malware, or not malware, but hiccup occurred where people are getting what they call the blue screen of death. I do appreciate it. Was keeping an eye on a couple other things, and I do have alert systems in place to let me know if there's a potential intrusion or something else is going on the network. And my phone was going off the hook at the time, and my wife was asking me, "What's your girlfriend want tonight? What's your girlfriend want tonight?" And I said, "It's not my girlfriend, it's the jail." So I'm calling the jail at 2 a.m. in the morning to find out what's going on. So, but I got to thank Jonathan and Travis for helping me out. Jonathan covered one building, Travis covered another, and I just made sure I went through the jail, new courts, and everybody else after that. And that's, if I ever speak before the board again, it's always the jail, new courts, and then elections. Unless it's election day, then elections is my priority. Everybody else can go to heck. So there you go.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. And thanks for carrying on my enforced absence. I can see kind of. Yeah, when they, no, of course, I don't think Reed would fly with me right now because, I'm dilated and everything is blurred. Yeah, and I thought, I wonder if you guys saw the little joke that Reed made was to have Braille made up for, Becky had me make Braille up for the budgets this morning. Yeah, that'd been good. So anyway, thanks, Mike, for covering for me. And yeah, I know it. Well, sometimes it happens. That's right. Well, appreciate that. Anyway, so we are on, do we need to take a break before we move on to the next quick coffee break? Okay, let's take 5. me. Kind of, sort of. Okay, we're back rolling, folks. All right. So the next one I got up is Nancy. Nancy, do you want to come on up?
Oh,
Or do you want, you want to sit
May I
there?
still sit here?
You can sit there if you want, or
I
else
feel like
you
I'm in
can- you can
trouble if
come
I'm
up
sitting
and
at that
join us.
table.
It's more fun at the big table.
No, it's not. Sorry.
Wow, rejection. Yeah, it is. No, Nancy, you sit where you're.
I'm very comfortable right here. Thank you,
And that is just
Mr.
fine.
Chairman.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. I guess one of the first things I want to point out is on my election expense line item, you're going to see it's there at 145,800. That does not include a primary for the consolidated. We will not know that until the end of October. Lee County has never had a primary for a consolidated election, but the last couple years since I've been in office, we've been out of the ordinary. So that will be a very large expense if we have to do a primary, but we won't know that till October. What else would you like me to cover?
Okay. You gotta bear with me. If anybody has any questions for Nancy while I get my,
Okay,
I have a question.
sure, Larry.
The liquor licenses, what, are we still budgeting that 30,000 that we used to budget for, 52, 251 and 30? That's
Mm.
out, right?
No, it hasn't been in the budget for
For a few years?
a long time. Yeah.
okay. I got my notes here, Nancy, so I'm trying to
Yes.
read and look, make sure I'm asking the question correctly. So on your county clerk fees, we've got, so year to date, we're at 426. Last year's budget, we're at 586. We put in 535, so we've reduced, we've adjusted your revenue line item down 50,000. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Is that where you think you're gonna be?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. The recording world is, it's tough right now. Like you said, we're probably down at least 25% with, recording. And that, recording is obviously, house sales, refinancing, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, we've seen a huge, fall off with that, but the interest rates is killing that.
Okay.
So it's unfortunate, but yeah, we hope maybe it's going to turn around. But yeah, I mean, our volume with walk-ins and volume with mail have been, down to nothing, but an awful lot of corporations and companies are going to e-filing. So that's increased up probably 25% in e-recording, but it's not, showing in the dollar figure. Just because it's offsetting what we used to have in mail and walk-in traffic.
And we have an increase, okay, so that, and then we have the increase in salary full-time. From last year, we were at 250, requesting 276.9.
Yep. So what I did there was I just did a 4% across the board with that. I mean, because it's unfortunate. I know you guys know I'm in the same boat as Amy. I have a couple of people in my office that are just squeaking by making once minimum wage goes up, and they've been here 3 years because of the hourly rate that was in their union contract 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, because we took it out of the union contract 3 years ago.
Right.
That minimum wage that they would start at, which was like $13.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm not quite, I just wanted to know
Yep.
what you plugged in there.
Yep,
What your
absolutely.
idea was.
Absolutely.
And and we did get the, you're aware, we did receive the letter, so union negotiations will
Yep.
commence.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And then that figure also is just showing me at 7 employees. Okay. My office used to run with 8 full-time employees. A year and a half ago, I had a girl that was with the county for 20 years and she retired. And I never replaced that person because I knew the outlook of what it was going to look like upstairs with, yeah. So, I've gone down to a 7-employee office and technically right now I only have 6. I have my 7th employees on long-term disability. So
Okay,
that could change.
right.
You never know with long-term disability.
Right.
So Nancy, is that taken in account in what you've plugged in for numbers as 7?
Yes.
Count downstairs?
Yeah.
Not 6?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know we've discussed this too. Like you said, I'm in the process of cross-training all of my employees, especially on the 2nd floor. It's a little bit harder since my office is on 2 floors to do that but like you said, right now the girls are geared up to election, so they focus solely on election, the 2 girls that are on the 1st floor. But the girls on the 2nd floor are all in the process of being cross-trained so they can move from different sides of that office. Because it's difficult, as you can imagine, that I'm down a person. I have 2 desks that are empty on the 2nd floor, but that 8th desk will never, it's a floating desk, but it's a little bit difficult when people, are sick. They have vacation scheduled, but that's where I don't have a problem. I'm a hands-on manager. I just jump in. So we're working the best we can right now with that.
Nancy, is there a relationship between the clerk fees and the real estate transfer stamps expense? I just noticed that we're anticipating our income, our revenue to be down, but we're also expecting our expenses to be up. Is there a particular reason for that?
No. So you mean like the revenue stamps there that are showing that we're budgeting for 250,000?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, like you said, you always kind of put a little bit of a cushion in there. I don't know that it's gonna be that high.
Okay.
Those are the stamps that go with every document that's recorded, sale of a home, and those are revenue stamps that go on those recorded deeds. So like I said, that might be a little high for next year at 250.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because that's kind of been in and out. Because you take that in, as
Correct.
you transact and record the deed, and then it goes out to the state of Illinois. So
Right.
So it's
Right.
an in and
And
out.
then, like you said, how you see the fluctuation there too, it just depends also too, if you have a huge amount of farmland that sells, that bumps it up extremely high. And if you have a lapse there in farmland sales, it's a lot lower.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay.
Something else that's real scary, which I know you see on there, is the publication postage line items. Those are with a lot of us that have to, do mandatory publications still in the newspaper. And postage is just unbelievable. It just keeps going up. And especially, like I said, with all of the things we have to mail out from the election department, those are mandatory mailings. It's a big number.
Go ahead, Larry.
Where would the election judges fall under here?
The what? I'm sorry?
The election judges.
So they'll fall under that general election expense, Laram, so it's all bunched in there. You will see that there is a separate line item for salary part-time. So those are the part-time help or people that we have that come in that help with election day and with early voting and things like that. But yeah, it's all bunched in there together with that.
And they did get a raise from the state, right?
Correct.
Or mandated, I should say,
Correct.
from the state.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
So I do get,
Because I know we're having a hard time finding people, right, Nancy?
right.
Nancy Naylor.
Yeah, we're trying.
Right, and right now the
Really
state
hard.
does reimburse us about $6,000 for an election. So So I mean, that helps tremendously, but that also was part of that. The state bumped it up. And so then that went up to $6,000. So that helps a little bit. And then also we do get a grant for IVRS, which is the voting registration system. The state does reimburse us for that. But again, it's, one of those things, the state's very, very, very particular on what you can use that grant money for. Yeah, but that runs about $17,000 that the state gives us for the voting registration software that we have to purchase.
Jim, I have one question.
Yep, go ahead, Nancy.
Do you by any chance know the cutoff number if there will be a primary for consolidated election? I don't know, like how many have to throw their hat in the ring before you are required to have a primary?
Yeah, so it depends on how many people file to run each
Right.
position, and it's 4 to 8 that we have to do.
Okay,
So,
that's, yeah.
I mean,
Highly
a-
potential.
yeah,
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
didn't know the number. I was curious.
right, and we'll know by the end of October, so, but yeah, so my budget doesn't show that, and I think years before we just took it out because it looked,
Yeah, thank you.
So, of course, you've heard me ask every department head the question, how much can we shift? You've got $289,000 in your special recording fund. What do you use that for? And is that something that we could shift some expenses to, or what can we do there, Nancy?
okay, and I'm sorry, where are you at?
Special recording fund. And it's right underneath, so as you, if you're looking at the same thing I am, I don't know if you are or not.
It might be better to look at the screen.
Yeah, so you've got your total budget area right there, and then right underneath there is your proprietary funds. And you've got special recording, vital records, and state of Illinois equipment grant. And I mean, we know what the equipment grant's for. But that special recording, can you talk about that a little bit?
It's the same type of thing as you see there. That's the money that we bring in for recording. And because like you said, we did have an increase in the recording of each document, but a lot of that goes to GIS. So that's a number we don't know what that will be going, month to month. Like for instance, the month of July, we brought in $37,000 in July, and then in June, we only had 20, sorry, I misplaced that piece of paper. Yeah, so that again, it fluctuates. And that is everything that comes from that document that's recorded. There's so much of it that just shoots out, and we only get to keep so much of that.
So, but I guess my question is what can you use that special recording fund for? I mean, I'm sure it's restricted in a way, but do you know what the restriction to that fund is?
No, because I mean, I've never used any of that out of the special recording fee, because it
Okay.
all goes, like you said, what I can use is what goes into that miscellaneous expense.
Okay.
And that's what I use for the software. All that miscellaneous expense is, it's my software. We have outside storage. Also, it's part of what we call direct search on Laredo that we offer to customers.
Okay.
We have to pay for that. But so that's where, like I said, that special recording fee all goes to.
So I guess the way I'm looking at it, Nancy, just so you know what I'm kind of thinking, and I think I can speak for Paul and Reed and the committee as well, is that, so we're plugging in 135,000 and you've got roughly 52,000 of expenses. If we can squeeze out and we can apply some of your other expenses and put in and pull money out of that fund, not trying to drain it.
Yep.
But pull some expenses out of that. We just need to understand, what restrictions are in that fund, how much, what we can do, what we can't do with that. Every little bit helps close this gap that we're trying to close. And that might be in your neighborhood, that might be a way to kind of close that up a little bit. So.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, like you said, so much of it goes to GIS, then part of that then has to go to the rental housing fee that the state requires, which is a lot of money. And all the clerks are in discussion right now, trying to figure out who's using and where that money is going, because we're talking that RHSP is a huge discussion in our world right now, because it was created from Cook County. And then some of it trickles down into the other part of the state, and it's used for landlords or housing. And basically, most of the landlords in the rest of the state have said that the pile of paperwork they have to fill out to get some of that, it's not worth it. So we're all wondering, but a lot of that. So like you said, the month of June, they got almost $7,000 from this county for rental housing. It's a lot. And then, like you said, the state also gets part of recording that goes into it goes to the state for every death certificate that we sell. So, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that the state takes percentages. They don't take it all, but there's an awful lot of percentages there. And then there's a domestic violence fund that the state also takes out of every every document that we sell. They get a part of that too. So, I mean, there are, like you said, there's a lot of stuff the state takes, and then we get the leftover.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Any other
I hope
questions
that
for
answers it.
Nancy?
I'm sorry. Did they?
No,
answer
no,
it,
no,
Jim?
no, you're good. So, anything? All right. Well, thanks, Nancy.
Well, thank you
We'll-
very much. Have a good
We
day.
appreciate your explanations and the information provided and we'll
Always looking
crunch
for
it
election
out.
judges.
Yes,
I'm gonna
more
start
election
wearing that
judges.
shirt.
Yeah, that's right. More
To
election
promote
judges.
that. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Next is Jennifer, and Jennifer is here, primed and ready. You want to come on down here, or whatever you want, like Nancy, whatever you want to be comfortable with. Yeah. Well, you just look like, for me, you just look like less of a blur, because right now with my eyes my eyes are all dilated, and you get
That's a
more
lot.
than about 2 feet away, and everybody just looks like a blob.
I
Dean Blob.
understand.
It just, sorry, but it just is.
It's like the days that I forget my glasses and it's like, yeah, I can't see anything.
Yeah,
So,
anyway,
good morning.
good morning.
I don't know that I have anything particular that is going on with my budget this year versus last year. But I did want to point out that on the budget sheet that we turned in, I added a column for amended FY24 budget. There were some things that I don't know if we would even call it an amendment, because the expenses were approved before the budget went through right at the end of the budget planning for 24, and they didn't quite get put into action the way that they were approved to be. So I added it's column K on the sheet that we were turned in for our budget, to show that there were expenses in the general fund, specifically our software and licensing fund for the assessment office side, that we were able to move into the GIS fund. And that was to make room for a salary increase for employees if they received their certification, their CIAO certification. So that salary increase and some of the training increase that happened in 2024 isn't reflecting in the actual current budget now, because those monies have not been moved yet. But if they were moved appropriately, then the column for the amended budget is where we would be at. And it was a budget neutral.
All right, so I don't have that. We don't have that.
Okay.
Reed, you want to?
We did that last year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't moved anything within Cassell yet. I would just say that what happened was some budgeted amounts were not in the correct line item, so it may look a little goofy from what is being requested this year versus last year.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can talk about it. I guess I didn't include that in what is in here. I figured we could just talk about it, know that there were issues in what was approved in the FY24 budget.
So I guess my question is it material for this year's budget? Because
So it's material because it may look like there's some large changes in this year's budget when really they were things that were approved in FY24. And it was $18,600 worth of money that was in the assessor's software and licensing that was supposed to be moved over that budget, moved over to the GIS budget. So if it looks like things are askew, it may go back to that.
okay. All right. I don't, software licensing. Okay, you're talking in the GIS fund.
So in the GIS fund, there should be budgeted $18,600 more.
More than the 109,766 than you're
No,
showing
no,
here.
more than the $80,000 last year.
Very,
So it's $80,000 last year, but that
okay,
that
so
was,
it's the discrepancy from last year to this year that we just need to be aware of what that
Right,
discrepancy is.
why it looks like it's such a large increase for this year, and then possibly on the assessment side where it looks like we've overspent on our software and licensing, because some of that money should be moved over to the
Okay.
GIS side.
All right. All right. Well, we'll get to GIS. Let's look at your top column first. And it looks like, okay, so you were at 353 last year. Request is 395. On your full-time, you know, about 23,000. What that represents what?
So for the full-time employee, that it was originally a part-time employee in 23, and then for 24, it was approved to be a full-time employee.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be the same as it was the previous year. The only increase is I implemented a 5% increase for not knowing what kind of
Okay.
adjustments would be made
So
this
you-
year.
the difference is that employee was planned to be hired somewhere during the middle of the year. So their full salary wasn't included in the budget for FY24.
That's incorrect.
In the number that-
When we did the budget for 24, we budgeted for the full-time employee for the entire year.
It's not, okay, yes, but it's not in the number that they're looking at, right? Because that's still that's the one that was approved at the budget meeting last year.
There were two complete separate issues for the 24 budget. One was that we had in the original budget approved for my part-time position to be increased to a full-time position. And that was in my original FY24 budget. And then later, like I said, we can call it an amendment, but kind of one of you guys' last financial meetings for the budget, I came in and asked for it to be approved for the increase in salary if the employees received the CIAO. So those are two separate issues.
But that they both came out of, or at least part of the salary was attributed back to the GIS fund on both of them.
No,
No?
no, the
I thought it was.
the salary for increasing the amount,
We pulled out of GIS.
right, it was $12,480 that we increased the salary for the CIAOs.
And while we're on that, did all the Did all the employees get through their certification or
So-
take advantage of that
Yeah,
opportunity?
we budgeted for 2 employees per year to be able to do that. I already had 1 employee who had already completed it. I've got 1 more that's completed it now. And then I do have 1 that is going to be working on it. I think her classes are this fall that will be working on it. So
So we'd have, 3, and you have 6 folks downstairs? Remind me again.
right, we have, in the assessment side, we have 6 and 2 of them have their CIAO and a third one has classes set up.
Okay. So 2 current. And 1 pending.
Right.
Okay.
And it was budget neutral when we had that approved because I moved the money, the expenses, software expenses into the GIS fund because, as you're discussing, there's these funds that have very restricted, movement in them, and the costs that I moved into the GIS side could be related back to GIS work. And it was, I believe it was a little bit more than the amount that we were increasing the expenses of the employees to get their CIAO.
All right. The question that I've got for you is, I think it's a little bit more philosophical. So as we're moving more and more business in your office from the townships from the multi-township assessment districts into the office, plain and simple, are we charging enough? Are we recovering our costs? Because it's great to be helping out the townships and all that. But the thing of it is, we got to
Right.
recover our costs fully.
Right. And I believe that we are recovering our costs fully and then some, and we have it built into the budget to increase their fees 3% every year to help keep up with inflation. The amounts, we have to be careful of what we're charging them, what they are bringing in, make sure that they.
I don't want to soak them.
Right.
Don't misunderstand.
Right. No, I
Jennifer,
understand.
but
Right.
the thing of it is, we're providing them a service and we
Right.
got to make sure that, and like you say, it's just not our cost today, but it's also our cost next year. And,
Right.
as we're plugging in money for raises, COLAs and all that.
Exactly.
We've got to cover it.
Exactly. And I believe that we are. I mean, I can do a reevaluation of where we're at, but most of those, I believe, are paying at least what they were paying their township assessors. It's comparable to what they were paying before they started using our services. And we want to be careful not to try to take more than what they're bringing in. So those multi-township assessment districts are set up. Basically, their function is for the township assessment piece of it. And we don't want to leave money on the table, but we don't want to take more than they could possibly afford anyway.
How many are of the 22 townships? How many do we cover?
Currently, we are covering all except for Franklin Grove, Nachusa, Harmon, Nelson, Ashton, Ashton, Franklin Grove, right? No, that's not right. I'm missing one of them off the top of my head. But the only ones that we have township assessors through the townships are Dixon Township and those other Dixon Township was the one I didn't mention. So other than that, we're covering them all.
Okay, so three multi-town, I think those are what you
Right.
just nailed off. There was 3
3 plus Dixon.
multi-township plus Dixon.
Correct.
Okay.
And in 2025, we know we will be taking on at least one of those multi-townships, if not the other one. So.
Yeah. And I just anticipate probably, besides Dixon, we're probably looking at having everybody on board probably within the next 5 years. I
Possibly,
think
yeah,
that's a reasonable assumption.
possibly. Franklin Grove, Nachusa recently came to me and they are looking at another township assessor that they would contract with directly. So until last week, I thought that Franklin Grove, Nachusa and Harmon Nelson were both probably coming on with us in 25, possibly not Franklin Grove, Nachusa. But yeah, other than that, and Dixon, we wouldn't be able to accommodate. We'd be, yeah. We hope that would never happen.
We just have to charge them for it.
Right, and I believe that we are, I definitely believe we are charging them. We are bringing in more than than our expenditures going out specifically for that.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for the assessor's office in her first part? Okay. Paul? Reed? Jeremy? Okay. In the GIS area?
For GIS, we have, like Nancy, the fluctuating funds of the recording fees that come in. The GIS fund is separate from the county general. We're restricted on how we can use the money.
And you're actually showing that you're spending that fund down by $34,000.
Right. We, one thing is we have a full-time GIS employee that we've been kind of in flux where we haven't had a full year of the two full-time employees for the entire year, but we can look forward to having that position filled. So we have that filled and we've moved some of those expenses, like I said, that we could over to the GIS side to help make the budget neutral change that we made last year.
Yep. Jennifer, you're one of the department heads and I don't have to give the speech. Let's spend down your restricted funds because you're doing that.
We've had our eye on it and been trying to make sure that it's reasonable.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions in regards to GIS? You don't anticipate any changes in GIS this upcoming year?
I don't have anything on the board right now.
Okay. All right. Nobody has anything else? You're off the hot seat, Jennifer.
All right, sounds good.
Appreciate you coming in and filling us in.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. I saw Alice. And then she ran off. Of course, I saw a blurry Alice. It was a blurry Alice. Yeah. I saw those dark pupils. Oh, good Lord. Okay. Just whenever, or go ahead while Alice is getting set up here. Go ahead. What's your question? But you need to speak in the mic though. Oh, you don't want to do it later? I don't care. So here's the gal with all the money, right? What?
Where?
What? I mean, we've predicated the whole budget on you.
Oh, man.
Oh.
You guys better start over.
All right, maybe not quite all you, but we always expect good things coming out of zoning.
Try.
That means economic development for the county.
We try.
All right, so
the one thing I'm just going to preface before we get into her budget is the zoning department budget is you'll notice that it's one budget this year. It's the zoning budget, not zoning and planning separate. It's one department. We put it together and we're trying to make things a little bit easier for everybody.
Cool beans. And that's why you have the partition here.
Yeah, essentially you can kind of ignore the
That-
first
that top
5 or
section.
6 lines, yeah.
Right.
And we showed what it was last year, and in that adjustment column, we're showing what we're moving kind of out of zoning and planning to just zoning, so you should see a corresponding adjustment in the zoning general fund portion.
Right, and there, you see that in that $75,000.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Well, would you look at that? Zoning fees going down fiscal year 24 budget, 400,000, we're taking them down to 300,000. Really?
So unfortunately, when the state took over the wind and solar, we are now only able to keep what we are spending for administering that petition. So before we were getting several $100,000 per petition. Now I can charge 5,000 per megawatt. I have to keep a running total of all my expenses. We keep what is ours. We send back if there's any left over. If there's any overage, they have to pay us that as well. So that's really, really affected things. So the figure you're actually seeing is not accurate because we have collected 5 of these, what I'll call a deposit, for lack of better term, because it's not really our money until.
And you're talking about the estimated run rate or the year to date?
The year to date.
So part of that, you're saying part of that 297 is actually money that we're gonna have to rebate back to the
Yes.
petitioners.
Correct. I did have a petition for our building permit application come in recently for community solar. So there's another 50,000 that is not reflected yet. I am.
But that restriction that you're talking about, is that's strictly on the
Zoning.
permitting process, but once they get to the building fees that we can charge, that's ours and that's what we can do, and we don't have those hoops that the state.
Yes, the hearing fee is a deposit. The building fee is ours.
Right.
This.
So we just need to get these things that we've approved, we need them built.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
The state did try to regulate how we do our building permit application, what we charge. What they said is, counties have to base it on other similar development in the county. They did not change our fee. We've been doing this for 20 years. We have established renewable energy in the county. We've been charging this rate. So I did not change it and it has not been challenged.
Very good. All right, as far as expenses, okay. And you've got one, it's you and your assistant.
Laura, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Lara, go ahead if you got a question.
On the salaries, for year 24, we're at 52, then we're run rate is 78. Wouldn't that be over?
That's an overlap of individuals' time, right? Because we had D retire during FY 24, so you have a month of her salary as the director, and then you have payouts related to service credits and whatnot at vacation time. So that's why it's high for this year.
We budgeted 55, right? For this 2025, or requested?
Correct.
Okay.
The one area that I would actually like to see go up, and you did take it up this year over last year, that training and conference. And I know Ally's on, if you're listening. Ally, you there? Those training conferences that you guys went to, I think, are really valuable to us, for you guys to learn what's going on within the industry. And, I'm a believer in training, regardless for all of our folks, but I wish we had some more money available so that you could, because I know there's umpteen conferences that you could be attending. and
Yes.
We don't have the funds for that.
Yes, and Laura, she has actually also attended two conferences this year as well. She was able to find grants that paid for hers, in total, all of her expenses. So we are always looking for those kind of opportunities, anything to further the education. There is a lot to learn, so, and keep up on.
So I'm not fully aware of what the statute states when it comes to the fees that we are allowed to collect when they permit. But a lot of this training and these conferences and continuing education is required because of these permits and developments that are coming in. Is it possible to have, when we have the time that we're able to deduct from these, what we're getting back from these permits, to have continuing education or training as a line item so that we're able to cover that increased cost to continue to educate the department?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Ally, and it's awfully hard to do that when we're, within the budget and we're cutting the budget, the income coming into Alice's area by 25%.
Right. I'm asking if it's statutorily allowed to increase it at no cost to the county, but that's part of what we're collecting in the fees.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So right now, like with these deposits I take in, I have a rate that I charge for my time, and that includes all of the overhead, everything, that is going into administering a hearing. We could increase that rate to cover this training, because those are the hearings, those are the big ones.
Sure.
And that's what this training would apply to.
Right.
So we can build that into the fee, the administrative fee for the petition hearing. I don't know.
It sounds reasonable to me. Yeah, absolutely. Do it.
Okay.
I mean, if that's an option for you, and if you want to work something up and so that's reflected.
Yeah,
in
and
the
I would
district
encourage
budget.
you, Alice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I have some lag on the internet. Sorry, guys. And I would encourage you too, that when you look at that number that you put in there for training, that 3,500 for training and conferences, I mean, being as I attended one, that's pretty low, right? Like that's maybe one on the expenses that it costs. So maybe looking at what is coming for FY25 as far as conferences, what applies, and kind of making sure that number is maybe increased and really accurate as we build it into that rate fee that you get back.
Yep. Good point, Ally. Appreciate it. So yeah, however you want to do that, and bring that back to Reed and Paul and Jeremy. We'll get that worked in there. But yeah, whatever you think is a reasonable offset. Because you did the one on battery storage. There's conferences for the grid operators and everything, and that's really the critical side as well.
They really are beneficial, because these conferences are geared towards the industry, not counties or, government. So when we go in, we're getting industry information. We're not getting it curtailed to what they want us to hear. So it really is advantageous to go to these and learn. You learn so much at them. So it is important, but I am trying to be realistic with what we're dealing with across the county. So.
And it's not wind and solar. It's the other development opportunities we've got coming down the road that is, we've got neighbors that are dealing with it, but it's new to us.
Exactly.
So, yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions in regards to Alice's in the zoning, Blair?
The salaries for full-time. Do you have any part-time people?
So yes, how I
That's
handled
not
that.
here.
So they're under contractual services.
Oh, okay.
So we are paying our field folks, essentially through contractual services. They're 1099 employees.
1099?
Yep.
Okay, that's what, okay.
Mrs. Debbie had previously been budgeting $75,000 to cover a comprehensive plan review. After discussing with Jeremy, it sounds like that might come out of the county board's budget or capital.
Yeah, so essentially in the past, what you'll see in the old planning budget up there, it was 75,000 in contractual. We actually started dipping into that for contractual employee services. I know that was previously budgeted for a updated comprehensive plan. We think that that's going to be significantly more than $75,000 anyway to do what we need to do. And when the county's prepared to start that process, and the city of Dixon's doing one now, so we're actually going to be in a meeting with them on that. And it's going to be great to see what they're doing. That's going to come out of more of a capital expense.
And so what I've done is we're now keeping that at the 75,000 that would cover the contractual worker fee. We also are trying to keep some padding in there for a potential building inspector. In 2025, we are going to have to start enforcing building codes. I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like in total yet, so we are trying to keep a little bit of a buffer in there in case we have to have a building inspector.
Okay.
And that building, when the building codes come in, again, just to keep everybody updated, we do have a grant application out with FEMA through BRIC, and that's looking positive. Some of those initial costs are, if that comes through, will be all included in that grant, the grant funds. But we'll still have to pay, a third party contracted services for building inspections.
So then your wage for yourself, your request is we go from the 50s to the 70s. Is that correct, Jeremy?
No, that is not
No?
correct. So currently we budgeted 67,000 for her salary for FY
Oh, I see.
'24.
FY
There's
'24,
a we're just estimating a CPI increase essentially there. And then you'll see a salary full-time. We're looking at, depending on where things are, there's some increases there, but that's just an estimate at the moment.
Okay. Any other questions
Thank you.
for Alice? All right. Thanks, Alice.
We do appreciate what you do, even though I gave you a hard time.
Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer,
It's not 11 o'clock yet.
but you're here. You mean I'm running ahead of schedule? That's right. Michael ran it through. He did. He knows he has a tough crowd with Liram. Not with me, but with Liram. All right, see you, Tim.
Do we even have a Well, I thought we were.
Yeah, Mike's still here. I think he's on the phone.
Okay.
So he's in and out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Rudolphi, tell us your story.
I was born.
I knew that was open. Any significant changes you anticipate
No,
in the treasurer's area?
no, I don't see a lot of changes in our department. What we do look for, as you guys are looking at it, is our restricted funds. I'm pushing through in the automated restricted fund. I'm pushing through our DevNet software costs because we can do that there instead of the county general. But
You, in the collector automation fund?
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Not a lot
indemnity
there.
fund is very restricted with tax sales, like sale and errors, different items going through the tax, the property tax sale. So that's a very restricted fund on what you can use that for.
So can we shove salaries in there?
No,
Since you can't
no,
shove salaries in
no,
there?
you cannot. No, but you can in automation. And we try to look at that maybe with our part-time people that come in. But you cannot use salaries for that I am aware of for in the indemnity fund. It's more a fund. It's almost like a tort fund in terms of when we sell taxes and somebody comes through, kind of like in the Hennepin County, Minnesota case, you get sued for selling a property that you shouldn't have, or, you know, to that degree, you use that fund for those type of litigation issues.
Does that, so like you have so those are all considered like sheriff sales, right? So.
No, sheriff sale is
It's
different, is different. So
Okay.
a sheriff sale, you're actually selling the property.
Right.
In the tax sale, you're
Selling
selling the
just the tax.
taxes. The problem though is after 3 years, if the current owner hasn't reimbursed or, you know, paid this off, that tax buyer can go in front of a judge and get what's called a tax deed.
Right.
That tax deed wipes out all liens except for US federal lien or a municipality lien. So, but it also then, in theory, takes away any equity that the owner had. And that was the case with the Hennepin County in Minnesota. They argued that, wait a minute, I should have gotten back my equity then. Well, I mean, depending on how you want to judge that, there's all kinds of different ways to look at that. But that's what the indemnity fund is used for in those cases. Maybe we sold a tax on a property that the current owner is going through bankruptcy. If you're going through a bankruptcy court, technically you cannot sell that out from underneath them. So then you got to back that through. You got to give the tax buyer their interest plus fees. And even though
How
it's not
much of
our own.
that?
Yeah.
I'm learning here.
Yeah,
I'm always trying to learn, Paul. How many tax sales do you have annually? You think, I'm sure
Yeah,
it
so we
fluctuates.
Yeah,
but-
it's our tax sale is once a year at the end of October.
Right.
Each year we typically have, anywhere from 600 to 800 parcels,
Really, that many?
but half of that is Woodhaven.
Right.
And
Joseph
some,
E. Myers, right?
well, yeah, that's who
Yeah,
we
that's-
use.
yeah.
That's who we use to fulfill the property tax sale. They do it for us. And then they are also our trustee for those properties that don't sell in the tax sale.
Mhm.
It goes to the trustee. But the sheriff's sale is, they've gone through foreclosure. And so the bank is asking for, the sheriff to sell the property. Anybody that bids $1 over what the bank owes is going to get it. Typically what happens, the bank bids what their value is in it and they get it, So then the bank owns it, they redo it, and then they sell it back out. So it is a different process. And it is a different value because at a tax sale, you're not buying the property. You're buying you're putting a lien on the property by paying the property tax for that individual.
And then they're allowed
3 years.
Now I get in the
3
weeds on
years.
this, but those tax buyers, they're allowed
An
bump.
entry. Correct.
Yep.
So in that tax sale, it's actually a reverse auction. So it used to be you would start at 18%. 2 years ago, the state came in and said that was a burden on our people. And they limited it to 9%. So you start at 9% and it goes down from there in terms of what you want on your return.
Mhm.
If it's farmland, the very first thing anybody does is they bid 0. They want that farmland because you can pay the taxes and then own it. You can make a lot more money on it through selling it than you can just being reimbursed. If it's and sometimes we have homes that we sell it, the home burns down. That indemnity fund, then we have to give that tax buyer back their money because it was sold and the property is no longer in the current or in the state it was when it was sold, and it no longer has the value it did because it no longer has a building on it.
Right. Right.
So that again, there's where you would have the sale in error is what it's called. And you would pay, so in essence, the county's paying that tax buyer back, could be $10,000 worth of taxes plus interest plus fees. And then, we are basically covering that cost. Now, we do charge a tax buyer for every piece of property he purchases an indemnity fee. So they're funding their own, but it's very restrictive. So you see about 250,000, maybe upwards of 3. In a county our size, if that fund were ever to go over 2 million, we can give that back to the county general. So we got a ways to go.
We got a ways to go.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to worry about that. All right.
So, I think in one of the things you'll notice, right, our bookkeeping fee reimbursement is out for 25. That was basically the lots fee we were charging on a monthly basis for taking care of their banking and their money issues.
Wasn't enough.
Yeah, and one of the other things, and Jim, you kind of just brought it up in the last session with Alice, our training line is only $3,000. But though we don't use it a lot, I would love to see our team start to get better educated in what happens. And there are some classes in Springfield. I mean, I'm not talking about sending them off to, a foreign land, but, in Springfield, sometimes in Champaign, different areas, we would use that to help them understand what's going on. One of the other things is our ERP system. Every September has a annual conference for what they use. So Reed will be going to that this September. So we'll use, some of that training this year on that. But I would love to bump that up, even if I bumped it to 5, right? I mean, just to give them the opportunity to learn what happens with the state statutes and what has to happen during the tax season.
Well, as you well know, and I won't backtrack on what I told
I didn't
Alice.
figure
I'm a
you would.
believer in conferences and training.
Yeah.
And, anything to help our people better serve
Yeah.
our taxpayers. So,
Yeah.
if we can fit that in.
Yeah, and it's a
go ahead
great,
and make that adjustment.
yeah, it's a
And,
great group of
you know.
people we have. I mean, even down to our part-time people. I'm very fortunate to have people who want to come back every summer and help us. And Diana helps, and Patty McBride, who was in that office 20 years. I mean, that's a fantastic opportunity for the county to be able to lean on them to help us. So,
Oh, yeah.
I have
Well, Patty's
a
been
couple
around
questions,
forever. So
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, Larry.
The bookkeeping reimbursement, is that because of the old lots? That's gone,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then this is the first time I see this, and I was looking on the agenda here for county board meeting, the stipends. What are those for? Is that for
So,
any specific,
yes.
the departments, do they all do this? or
No,
what?
so what that is both accounts payable and payroll stipends.
Mhm.
In the past, that was in your clerk's office. And when that transferred to the treasurer's office, those stipends just basically transferred to the employees. So Reed, as an exempt employee, does not get that, and neither do I as an elected official. So the other two do, but we picked up basically a head count worth of work, at least, for the cost of a stipend of $6,000 a year.
And I mean, I guess I'd say the idea behind those is that those individuals are doing something outside of what the normal responsibilities would be of the treasurer's office, right? It is not treasurer's responsibility to do payroll or AP. So they are taking on additional work beyond what is in their, would be in their normal duties that's probably assigned through their union contract.
Correct.
Yeah, I do remember that. I agree with you because I remember when Lori used to cut the checks and then you guys had to approve them and it was a mess. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the
So,
stipends, I just, no,
yeah. And so in essence, what we did
I've
was,
never seen it before.
yeah, we were able to give them a bump in their pay, which is really insignificant when you think about it. And there are so many nuances with payroll. And you have to have a highly, I don't know. I don't know how to word this, but payroll is very sensitive. So
Attention to detail.
I want people that are very trustworthy, that keep things in perspective for what they're doing, and it's just a way to bump their salary a little bit.
I know, but when we
And that's why it's,
hired,
no, go ahead, Larry. Well, and that's why what I was gonna say is, that's why it's important to have consistency as much as we can and, you know, and plus we got a good software program now. I'm
Correct.
understanding that it's working okay.
Yes.
And, but when you have weird things that are built into contracts, certain contracts, it makes a level of complexity that gets interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So, no, Liram, go ahead. I'm open to your question. I'm open to
how
your
does that
question.
work with your, the stipends and the bonuses? Because I know I asked Jeremy last time. How does that work with the Teamsters, with the union?
Well,
How
that
does
is written into, in a way, it is kind of written into that contract from I'll say millennial, long time ago, because they knew in the past, as you just pointed out, Lori was doing that.
Mhm.
And she was part of that Teamsters union contract through the clerk's office. And they knew, so they had their salary, the way they projected it,
Mhm.
but they knew if there was unique opportunities or things that they were doing in their job, that there was a stipend to pay them for that. And the contract or the union has never, they're never going to bark at somebody paying their people more.
Paying more, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside the regular job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
you as a department head have that authority without even having to go to the board to do that.
Well, it's budgeted, so.
Budgeted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that would work.
So I gotta ask the question, and we're gonna forget that Reed's in the room, and I'm not gonna ask you to leave, Reed, but the major change that occurred in your office is bringing Reed on as a finance director, not as a deputy treasurer. And I think, there's significant differences there that I think maybe we
Absolutely.
we could talk about. How do you feel that that's been going and
Well, I mean, I don't want Reed to get a big head here, but I think having him there has been a significant benefit, not only to me, but to the county. He's automated some payroll issues that have been fantastic to do. He's automated some accounting structures, which is what we needed. Change is always the right thing to do. So, as we learn and get accustomed to this software, we find things and we go, hey, we can make this faster, easier, better, right? So that in and of itself is worth the cost of the admission ticket, if you will, right? But it's also been able, from the year before where it was just myself and then the two gals that work for me, it was a nightmare trying to keep up with everything. So this is definitely something that we need to do. It's a great structure to have, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
You don't have a deputy. Yeah.
Well, I don't have a chief deputy, if you will.
Yeah.
De facto, his job description says he is, but we don't necessarily call him that. But Debbie and Danielle are my deputy treasurers. And Reed is too, in a sense. But he's more what I would call him as a finance director. In terms of, we did a lot of stuff with the banks. We've changed you know, in the last year, we've changed a lot of banking structures such that we were able to get better rates of returns on CDs, on just daily deposits, really. You know, we've been able to go out to them and ask them for different structures. So yeah, it just affords us that ability to invest our money better. There's always a better way to do it. You just got to have the time and the people to do it.
How many people do you have in your office, Paul? I've asked you that.
Yeah, we have Reed, we have Danielle, and we have Debbie. So we have, including me, we have 4.
4, okay.
Yeah, and I would
I
not
thought it was a
include
lot
me.
more. That was just a part-time, right?
Yeah, so then there are when tax season, which by the way, next week you will see a couple of part-timers in there, because if you're ever here during that due date, there's people lined up out the hall down to the stairs, you know. Everybody wants to wait until the last minute.
They pay you in pennies or no?
Not yet, but
There's a guy in
actually,
Ashton that paid his water bill with 2 jars of pennies.
and actually, if somebody did try that, I would send them away, because I can refuse. By state statute, I can refuse that payment.
Yeah, some unusual
Can't-
payment
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, you
unusual.
can-
Can't
cannot-
cause an undue burden.
You can't-
on
There
us.
you go.
Undue
Yes,
burden,
undue
wow.
Undue burden.
Yeah.
Correct.
But can you
Correct.
deny the single dollar bills? Because they're
I
illegal
haven't
tender.
I haven't yet.
There's
I
restaurants in
haven't yet.
Chicago don't take cash.
Yeah, I mean,
We had someone the other
just,
day.
we
They
just,
paid
we
in
just had
ones.
somebody last week pay
Singles?
$600, pay $600 in ones. Yeah.
No comment?
I don't even want to speculate. But, yeah.
Want to echo what Jim is saying about Reed. I think this is politically safe for the county. If we get a treasurer that doesn't know anything about accounting, like myself, not that, I don't aspire to that position because I don't believe in it. I
Are you
don't
sure?
believe in an
You can
elected
have-
position being, not an accountant, but
Right, yeah.
if
So,
we do get an elected position open and he's not an accountant, he has a safe.
Right. Well, I
So
can
that's
say,
what-
and of
I
course,
see that for the future.
I thought Paul was very measured in how much he blew up Reed's head, and I will as well. So, but I'll double down on what Paul said from my perspective as finance chair. Bringing Reed on has been very much a boon to the county and to the taxpayer. And really appreciate the things, the tools you bring to the table, Reed, and I think is.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
been
I mean,
great.
he really, it was he and Jeremy that put the budget together. And I say Jeremy, but maybe Jeremy was just there to watch him change all the numbers and such, but really Reed put that.
Paul.
I understand. He put the file together, right, for you guys to review. And there are certain, we have this in PDF, but in that file, you can do all kinds of things with it. You can filter by it. You can do VLOOKUPs with it. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. And Excel is a great tool. And he's very advanced on Excel, which is great. And that's something I think the county, and to be able to have a county at this size, to have that is absolutely, something that we needed.
So he's saving us money to pay for
I
his wages.
think so.
Well,
I think so.
I don't think you can overstate the importance of having, from my perspective as a layperson, coming in once a month. Of course, I'm seeing it more than
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
you know what I'm saying. As a county board member and as the county board, we see these numbers, and we absolutely depend on these things being properly presented. And the changes that we've made over time, I feel we're presenting into the public the finances of the county properly presented. And I think that's the changes that you guys have implemented. And-
By a
and
professional.
Really appreciate it. Yep,
So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep. So,
yep.
okay.
So,
I would like
Anything
to
else?
just point out that Paul has been a great mentor in that, because I'm sure I knew some stuff, but I didn't know everything, and he's been a great help to me.
there you go. Now we got full circle.
Yeah, now-
Okay.
Now that we've got that through.
Jeremy's going, for God's sakes, let's get to county
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions
questions?
for,
I mean,
for
yeah.
Paul?
So when's the next election cycle? Are we 180 days before that?
We are way beyond that 180-day because that next election cycle is like 80 days away.
Oh,
So so you missed it, Jim, but
No, I heard, and of course, I knew it was coming. so-
okay, yeah. So, and that might be some of Laram's questions, but the next one would be treasurer, Nancy and the county clerk and the sheriff, and that's gonna be 26. So what the board, technically, it's really the elected official needs to bring that to the board to say, hey, this is, this position is up for election in so many months. Here's the wages I'd like to see. But it, again, is a board decision. But the board then has to do a resolution on that.
Right.
So,
And in fairness to the coroner, and that's something, I don't know whether we make sure.
So we have a calendar that we just created. Becky is now gonna start keeping track of that. So the county board has an idea of when this is due and we can move forward here.
Because I can appreciate, his concern there because, I remember when I was township supervisor, we were under the same restriction
yeah.
and you don't think about it. You're doing
Yeah.
your job and
I-
you don't think about it. So it'd be nice. to
But some
have-
of these jobs are elected positions, so what happened to the quote unquote public service too
Yeah,
sometimes?
well,
I'm
and
sorry,
that's
but-
all part of it.
Yeah.
We
I
don't
mean,
do this stuff to get rich, you do
Right.
it as a public service
Yeah.
but at the same
They know that
time,
when they run.
we don't want a salary and you don't want a salary for an elected official. We don't want Paul wants to give, I know he wants to give half his salary back to us. I've heard that. But we want to make sure his salary is commensurate with,
I
you
was
don't want to
thinking
get
all
it.
of it.
I know what commensurate mean, but also as an accountant, he can make 3 times more than what he makes here. I get that.
Right, right.
I
But
have
you-
friends that are accountants.
Yeah.
But
You don't want
It's an elected-
positions to get paid
4 times more.
so that nobody wants to do the work, even with the function, the idea. There's a line there. And it's always what that line is. Every county has, every, jurisdiction has to make that determination.
In Chicago.
So, anyway. All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Paul.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Paul.
thanks.
Reed, are you gonna do it from there? Or are you gonna come to the table? Or Reed?
Reed.
Jeremy, sorry, I had Reed on my mind. Whew, Reed on my mind.
He has much better hair than me.
Yeah, he does.
It's
Better than both
it's
of us.
receding very quickly though.
Yeah, combined.
I'm gonna do it from here because I still have to operate this, if that's
All right.
okay.
Yeah, you got it. You just gotta scroll down, page 8.
All right, so I'm gonna start off just, again, there's gonna be some significant differences here from previous year budgets to the county board budget that's being requested for FY '25. One of the main reasons for that is you're gonna see the salary full-time line at a significant increase, and that is for the HR director as we continue to build the administrative operations of the county. That is one of the key positions that we are lacking. So this has been a goal of mine since I sat in, 2 different interviews and talked about the need for this position.
Is that the HR position?
Correct.
So this is new, right?
This will be new.
So what,
No, it's not him.
it's new, I said.
No.
Oh, it's new.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, it is new.
Yep. So
We're gonna
currently,
hire another person?
what's that?
We're gonna hire another person?
We are. We have a county of 189 employees. Technically, with a county our size, throughout the state, there are typically an HR director and an HR administrator on the side. So we're way past due. Now, it depends on what you want your county administrator to do. So currently, I try to do the administrative duties that were asked of me to do, as well as human resources, health insurance, all those extra things that get on the plate. So it just depends on the county board's perspective of that role as well. But this is something that for the last 6 months, I think I've been advocating for pretty hard.
Well, I don't know. So might want to talk about the expand. So we were, and Laram, you were a part of this, is, you know, how do we handle personnel? How do we handle human resources? And so we've gone through several iterations. You know, for one, every department head was their own HR person. And we had folks that weren't schooled on what the law was, how to handle those things. And I don't think, you know, from my perspective, we shouldn't be asking those department heads to be HR experts. So then you remember we did the contract, and was there something before, but we did Sickich. There was another one. And that before was, as I remember, what, that $25,000, well, we did, initially, it was a $25,000 contract. And then we went to, it was basically, we got charged by call, wasn't it?
Right.
And that ended up being more expensive.
Right. Right. So,
Yeah.
you know, and with this, take into perspective as well, you know, the clerk's office was processing all health insurance related aspects and insurance processes. That has been removed. I've taken that over in the meantime, until we hire a human resources professional. So, you know, that professional will take on, again, compliance issues throughout the county, all employee and personnel aspects of the administration and hiring, firing, as well as health insurance and those pieces. So it's one of those things that we've talked about for a while. You know, this isn't a hidden secret. It's just the first time you're seeing a number on page here.
So where are you anticipating, you plugged in what, 65 into this budget?
We plugged in, what do we plug in? 75. 75, just on the high end. And that's in that salary.
And that
full-time
includes IMRF and that.
All
Yeah,
that's
those
all
are,
that's included.
they're built in, yeah.
They're built into the
that salary,
75
to
number.
that salary level, yeah. And
So that's where I got the
Yep.
65.
Yep.
So
Yep.
65 base salary plus benefits. Yep.
I mean, I guess the one thing I would say, and Jeremy mentioned we have 189 employees, but if you're going to compare a county to just a regular business with 180 employees, we are significantly more complex due to the number of union contracts that we have that all say different things, as well as then the employee handbook, right? So we don't have the simplest structure from a management standpoint.
Right. You know, and I think that the county has done a fantastic job. Again, you just went and had, you know, significant praise of Reed for the last 20 minutes, you know, on what he has done.
I was gonna go back to him, not against the necessity. I'm as a taxpayer's representative.
Right.
We're telling everybody, Jeremy, to tighten up their belts.
We are.
Okay, we're $1.4 million in the hole,
Right.
technically.
So part of this
And then
is
we've
to
created
assist in creating
positions that cost us a lot of money
Right.
last few years, last 4 or 5 years, I should say.
Correct.
We've
And
got
those
director on
positions-
top of director.
And those positions are supposed to save the county money in the long term. There's a return on those investments. So you guys just said how much Reed
Yeah,
saved
absolutely.
is saving the county. So we're trying to do that as we want to retain employees. We want to be compliant. We want to make sure that we're not having lawsuits on our hands, which we consistently do. We're not spending as much money on insurance as we consistently do because of those suits. So part of that is adding these administrative roles that can help make sure that there is a transparent operation across the board that will save the county constituents money, save the county money. So it's an investment into the future. Now, you could push that down the road. You could continue to push it down the road, and that's fine. But it's not going to be something that's not going to always be a need. And that's just something that I want to keep
Well,
in
we'll need a
perspective.
building inspector. We'll need some other type of inspectors. I mean, it's gonna go on and on and on.
It
That's all
will,
I'm saying.
it will. And then it's what do you prioritize that year, that budget year? And we have to look at it that budget year at a time. And, so yes, we're asking these departments. So what I'm going to ask you is from a county board's perspective, from how we administer the county and county operations in each department and the oversight of that, is it priority to do that okay? Or is it the priority to try to make sure that we are creating an accountable, transparent government operation? And through that, I believe that is due to building out the administrative side of this government, so we can make sure that our constituents believe in what we're doing and the return on that is transparent.
Well, that's a problem because they don't. And,
I know,
when
but
you hear a lot of feedback.
we sure
about,
do.
You guys are spending and spending and spending, and then we come back here and tell all the department heads tighten up their belts.
But all it
It's just-
takes is one lawsuit. And I guess this is what
Okay.
bothers
saying.
me, Liram, in our fiduciary responsibility, which,
Yeah.
you're bringing up great points. And don't think that in this give and take is exactly what should happen here and now in this budget process. But what I'll throw in, we are always one lawsuit away from people pointing at us. You guys telling me you don't have an HR person that could have handled that before it became a lawsuit? To me, it's a fiduciary responsibility that we have the number of employees that we do. We have the complexity. We all know that. For us not to have a person that's responsible for this, it's amazing to me that we haven't had a problem yet to this date. So I look at bringing, and I'm just telling you my perspective, and we can talk about it. My issue, looking at bringing a person on, and I don't bring on a head count lightly, but this is not just an investment for the future, it's for the protection of our taxpayer in the future. Because the last thing I want to do is have a lawsuit where we're kicking out a bunch of money that is coming out directly out of our taxpayers' pockets. So
Maybe a different perspective for you guys. And you know me, I'm cheap. I try not to spend any money. But Liram, you had pointed out earlier, you can get an elected official that doesn't know accounting in the treasurer's office. Well, that elected official probably doesn't have any management experience either. One of the biggest things I think we have in the county here that we're going to have a problem with is our management team, and this is not a knock on any of our department heads, but how much experience do they have with employment laws and what they can and cannot say to their employee? So from that perspective, I look at an HR person as a great training tool as well, that can train these people on actually how to manage, because there are very strict laws in place for what you can and cannot say to your employee, and how you deal with an employee's issue even.
Nancy's gearing
up. So yeah, I mean, just take that into perspective of what we're talking about and why so in that regard, you can tell, I would agree. I think we need an HR person at 189 people. And maybe you could argue that we shouldn't have 189 people. Well, that horse is out of the barn. Even if we had 50, I think we need an HR person.
Right, and there's only so much time that can be dedicated. I mean, when we try to, allocate time to things, right, the best we can, making sure that those trainings and we're staying in compliance. Having a staff member that is full-time looking at that is I think a high priority for us.
Nancy.
Thank you for that, Paul.
I just want to say, first of all, I'm not for not having a balanced budget, and I'm not for spending the taxpayers' money unnecessarily. However, my background is in the private sector, and I was CEO of a not this large of a company, a little bit more than 100 employees nationwide. And I did not have an HR person, and I did a lot of it myself. I had an attorney on retainer. And I can tell you that many, many times I was just slid by the seat of my pants and was lucky that the company did not get sued for all of these things, because the normal person that's doing lots of other things does not know. And to your point, lawsuits are very, very expensive. So I see the value of it. I see that it's the path we go. You know, where we're going to get the money, that's another question, but that's my opinion on the HR.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. I mean, and again, we're asking everyone, right, across the board to tighten our belts the best we can. And knowing that, we're still going to have to prioritize into departments' needs, right? State's Attorney's Office, we know they need another attorney. Okay, so we're going to tell them you can't get another attorney, even though that is a significant need across the street, and it's costing us more money to not have an in-house attorney because we have to pay out, out-of-house attorneys, or they're being bogged down. So again, it's trying to balance the needs out. We understand that there is this $1.4 million gap. Reed and I have been, and Paul and Jim have been working on this diligently to clean that up the best we can. And we have ideas on how to do that with making sure that we are still prioritizing departmental needs. All right. So it's trying to work through that.
Well, I guess one thing I would say on whether or not we're cutting anything. I mean, the gap that we have is between what we anticipate revenues to be and what everyone's budget requests are, right? That could be, hey, pie in the sky, if I want everything, here's what I'm asking for. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're cutting any particular services that department has been doing, but maybe they wanted something this year that maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year. So it's not necessarily like what they spent last year, now they have to somewhat spend less. I mean, in some cases, this is not even be possible, right? Because we have large union contracts that have built-in raises. So, it's not necessarily we're making them spend less, but we're asking them to really think about what they are requesting this year and what is an actual need versus what is a want.
It's over $100,000 difference for the whole year. 24 and 25.
That's right. And that is
in the county board line item.
That is, and there's a couple
And that
things.
includes our wages too, guys.
Right. That includes everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and I want you to take this into perspective too, Liram.
I do. I do
No, no,
get
no.
the necessity.
Yeah, but you're gonna, I guess what I want you folks to look at is
We're in a
this
hard
county
spot.
board budget is going to continue to grow. And that's as we change and build out how the administrative structure works here. I mean, there is a future plan for this. But that means there's offsetting costs from other departments, as I mentioned earlier. Right now, we're not paying an extra head into the clerk's office to take care of healthcare. That's being eliminated. That is being moved up to the county board costs at the moment, as we're projecting for next year. As we look towards potentially moving down the road, payroll, AP, those types of services off of other departmental loads, that'll come under county board and the administrative offices. So you might see increases here, but you're going to be looking at decreases in other departments, operations and expenses.
And that's like the structure of larger counties. They've moved to this maybe a little sooner. I would say, like, you look at the org chart for Winnebago. I mean, Winnebago has an administrator, they have a finance department, they have a human resource
They have a
department.
job for everybody then.
Right. Yeah, but we're
like
trying to
tax
build that administrative aspect of the county for our taxpayers, for county government, for our department heads, the employees, as frugally as possible. And we're trying to figure out a way to do this. And it takes time, and we know it's scratching at a surface. Again, 10 years ago, there wasn't a county administrator, right? You go 3 years back prior to Wendy taking it on, there was a gap in a county administrator. I could recall a time when the county board thought, do we even need a county administrator? Okay. So, do we even need a finance director? These are all investments that will bring return to the county and to the constituents. It's prioritizing. But again, it's offsetting, we're offsetting some of those costs from other departments.
Well, no, that's fine. I only have one advice for you. I'm actually looking for some consistency because we have employees from different departments that see themselves as being, cornered out, and maybe this, whatever HR guru is gonna fix that, because I think that's part of your job too, that we have employees in the maintenance department and the health department, and they come up to me. I've never brought this up before and say, hey, what do I do? Where do I go for this?
Yep.
And I send them your way.
And
I have
I'm
sent
glad
them
you
your
do.
way,
And I talk to them all the time.
Yeah, so I get that necessity part.
Right.
I would have sent them to the HR, right? If they had an employer relation issue. I get that.
Mhm.
It just, I don't know.
But again, as I said, there was a head count downstairs that has been essentially removed because we're taking a piece of that and moving those costs up here. And I've been doing that as just part of my add-on, just to do it until we figure out if we're bringing on an HR director or not. And if not, I'm going to probably always do it. But I'll tell you, it's prioritizing our, again, for me, then it's prioritizing my time the best I can. I do the best I can, but we're always swimming up here. I mean, we're working through it. But I get it, and
Well, just a little bit of consistency, like we have an employee down highway or whatever, these non-unions, or, they ask for a raise here, and this other guy gets a stipend. They don't see that,
Right.
hey, why are we treating these people a little bit different?
well, I think the one thing is we are trying to create consistency across the board. Each department does have its inconsistencies from itself, and you can't always think of every department or work employee within those departments should be necessarily treated the same, because there's different scopes of work for each department. So there can't be exact consistency across the board. It would be nice to say that.
No,
there
I
would
get that.
be.
I have employees that
Yeah.
I don't think they're at equal pay, at equal, I
Right.
try my best to make
Right.
it fair for every single one of them, but
Right.
even though I'm just a little guy, but.
For me as the county administrator, I want our employees to believe in their work in the county and love coming here, right? And I've said this over and over, and that's why there's this, it's been multiple talks about wage increases. I mean, that's part of it, but there is a need for consistency across the board, but we're trying to create that consistency from a lack thereof, right? So there has not been for a very long time. Not a knock on anybody, as a department, from a departmental or even from county board administration. It's just these steps are creating that long-term consistency. It just takes time. We can't make it happen like that.
I won't be here next year, so, but I'm not trying to, just because I won't be here and trying to make a big deal out of this.
Yeah.
Just,
I'd like to expound on that too. While we're gonna add like an HR person, and I'm gonna pile on a little bit here, and we're gonna add, some more people, that's fine. But like, I don't think you can say that, and I would be curious, Reed, on your perspective here, when you talk about larger counties or the way things are going. Liram just hits on an important point, which is to say that, like, what about quality board members? And that is, like, I'm not here for the money, Jim. None of us are. I think people could look at, I'm saying this from probably a pretty privileged position. I mean, we have the privilege of being here in the middle of what's today, Tuesday? I even know.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, spending 4 hours of our day. Like, who can do that? It's self-employed people like Liram. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know what you do now. You said you ran a company of 100 people or more. Maybe you still do. I'm not really sure. Sorry about this. Like, I think all I'm kind of saying is an unpopular opinion is maybe it's consideration that, like, we need to raise what county board receives as a way to induce people to try to be able to do this. Again, not so much for me or for Jim or for anyone at this table, but this room's half empty. I mean, we're barely at a quorum, and Liram just told us he's leaving. Jim's told me I'm in charge. I'm kind of thinking, shit, I don't want to be in charge. For the same reason that you're saying I need an HR person, which is to say, like, I have all this other stuff to do, and I'm trying to, like, answer HR, and I'm not an HR guy. And I'm saying, like, kind of what I'm saying to you guys is, like, okay, all of us are in that boat too. I mean, Jim's got a farm, he's got a plane, he's got yeah, we've all got things we got to do or want to do. We've got businesses that we're trying to run. I've stepped out. I mean, I apologize. I stepped out a couple times earlier to take some, some calls. And that's a little bit of a trade-off that I've got with like trying to like answer to my dad on our farm about like, hey, I want to do this. But like, he's like, we pay you to be here a lot more than $60 a meeting. Okay. So I think that's just, I don't know that where that leaves us today. I can hear people saying that I'm just saying I want to get paid more for being here. That's not the case. I think we need to be able to retain and attract people for that consistency and all the things that you're saying about the HR person. That's important as we move forward as a board and to try to be effective and whatever we can do to encourage that. I don't know if raising the money is going to necessarily be the answer, but just.
Your point's well taken, Mike. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do, and Liram's been around long enough. He was on the board prior to me. I observed the board, before I got on. The board member function has changed significantly just in the time that I've been around. Where board members, I think this is to the betterment of the county, where board members were more hands-on. And some of that created a little bit of inconsistency because you had 24 people, 28 people, we're down to 20. I would be in favor the next time around, be down to 16. But when you do that, when you cut the board size, you're putting more responsibility on the people that are left.
Right.
And so to do that, also the trade-off is that you get a board that's more policy than it is, getting in where Dean's going down and meeting with maintenance, with Tom and talking about what. No, you have a maintenance director that does that, and you set policy over time. So you take the burden off of the county board member to do the day-to-day activities, and we're working in that direction. Are we where we need to be? No, I think to your point, it always is good to take a look at are we compensating board members sufficiently enough to offset the sacrifices? I mean, you've got Ally at home on Zoom listening to do this, and I compliment her for she's been practically to every budget meeting on Zoom, and that's what we want. We want county board members that are committed and willing to put in the time and to understand the things that being good policymakers have. I think the changes that we've made in administration has made that our job better. And I guess that's, where I compliment Reed on. I compliment Reed because he's made my job better. I'll compliment Jeremy because he's made my job easier and better. True with Becky. I don't want to leave you out, Becky, too. But when I get, I appreciate the things that Becky does for us. All those things, but it's a balance. And we got to figure that out as we move ahead. Dean, do you want to say anything? You've been awful quiet back there. You can weigh in. Hit the button though.
I think that we do need an HR person. I really do. I mean, it just seems logical to me. I mean, you've got this many employees, this many responsibilities. I mean, it just can't be a part-time, when you get a minute, take care of this or that. I mean, you need somebody to actually take care of the whole process. So that's, in a short note, that's what I think.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here too, Dean. So any other further discussion?
No, sir.
Now, in all fairness, what did I tell you, Jeremy?
What's that?
In regards to the HR position?
You said you can stick it and fly away.
No, that's not exactly what I said. What I did, and I think what we did, my comment to Jeremy is we met earlier, kind of, doing the overview and whatnot. At the end of the day, if it looks like we can't afford it this year, I mean, maybe it's something, don't want to, but maybe it's something we do have to put off for a year. I don't like that because it's kicking the can down the road. But if the numbers dictate that, at the end of the day, we have to be fiscally responsible, right?
And we
So-
understand that.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm not asking, I'm not against the need.
I think we're all asking where the 1.4 is going to come from. And if you're telling us that you've got it under control and the HR person's fine, great.
That's fine, yeah. But
Well, and that's what the
we're-
budget
we're
wrap up
telling
meeting's
these
for.
people a different
Right.
story here. And I
No.
know that's our job to do that because on
Right.
this side of the table, we're supposed to, you know.
So, and that is, again, I go back to, we are asking people to, this is, as Breed said, when we get a budget drafted as, hey, this is everything we want, right? And we're trying to be as responsible to the budget as possible. And then we work through that, through these budget hearings, and then through budget wrap up, and we get things taken care of. Now, if it comes down to it and it says, hey, it is X priority over the HR director, then it's X priority over the HR director. That's just the way it is. And we understand that. What I'm here saying from a county board's perspective, and then from an administration perspective is, I believe it should be the county's board priority to invest in those operations. That being said, it is, again, every department head knows and every elected official knows it's the county board that ends up, putting the budget on file. So we will get through that.
And just, deciding what those priorities are, right? That's your guys' job as the elected official.
Well, it is our job, but you're throwing it at us too. So like, we have
Well,
an
it is.
agenda that we don't.
I got
Go
a
ahead.
quick question pertaining to the position and the discussion over the increased cost of such a salary. You guys mentioned savings and outside of conducting business. So you mentioned that the benefits, right? The things that HR would take care of that you can monetarily quantify. Do you have an estimation of what the cost savings would be if the negotiations for benefits were not handled by each department individually? Just rough estimate.
I do not have that. Mr. Calculator over here might be able to whip something up, but that's a good thought to look into, Ally.
That might help justify some of the increase in the salary if the budget savings is going to be so significant that it can't possibly not make sense. I mean, right there, you found it in the county general, right?
Right. And that's, I think that's where it is. It's quantifying the savings year over year in that position and what it does. And again, there's HR compliance and training. There is cost savings on the insurance sides of things when we have insurance lawsuits and trying to prevent that. It is the cost savings on added heads in a department to operate HR related aspects of those departments, which we've removed for the most part in general already. But I think that that's a great anecdote to try to quantify.
Yeah, good point, Ally. One of the things, it's good to always ask to try to get things on numbers as concrete as possible, I remember, when I first got on and it was Teresa as our administrator and she would talk about how much of her time was spent on HR issues. And then, and Teresa went on to Princeton and then we had Wendy, and Wendy would say, you guys don't understand how much time I spent is on HR issues. And I've asked the same question with Jeremy. So it's a little bit easier calculation for me in my mind, but to your point, Ally, it's always good to have something more concrete to look at. So.
And again,
one question I had said, you're envisioning this as being a direct report to you, Jeremy, right? Right. So.
I have one more point to make, and it's just a small one, but sometimes it's really important. When you have an HR person that takes care of everybody's complaints, gripes, feel like something's going wrong, it changes the culture of the company, so to speak, and people don't, have animosity toward their boss or their other when there's a neutral person that's going to assess that whole process according to the law. And the law is really important in that end. So it has another benefit as well. Pretty subliminal benefit, but it's there. And sometimes you can't measure it, but it does change the feeling of the people that they feel they have someone to go to. To Liam's point, they go to, don't know where to go when they've got something wrong. They're afraid to go to their boss, this, that, and the other. There's a lot of different reasons. So it has a lot of other benefits as well if we can see clear to it. Thank you.
Can I make one more point?
Yeah, you can.
And you can.
We
look
have
at
10
my
minutes.
Voting record, I have always been pro employees, pro this organization. We all are. But there are times where we're put up against the wall. Because we're supposed to be the taxpayers' guardians, right? Of that tax money.
Mhm.
And then if we're telling this department head, then how do we look in front of, the whole picture? Yes, we have to take that risk. I know when I came here, there was gonna be some people that are not gonna be happy with me, right? And that's why I ask a lot of questions, and some of them or most of them would be stupid, but
No, you're
I
not.
wanna know for myself, not that I'm worried about being put against the wall, because I don't care about that. That's why when I ran for the taxpayers. So I'm not against the organization. I'm not against, I'm all pro employees. Just again, it's a fancy word to me when you say consistency will never happen. I agree. But we have been very inconsistent with, the stuff that we do in the county. And I don't want to go into gossipy details, but hopefully, you can also would like to take this to the full board for discussion too, because I think we need to listen to the whole board.
It will end up going to the full board under the budget. So,
Because it shouldn't be a decision based on us. Because then they say, well, Larry, this is your last year leave and you can say whatever. No, that's not.
Can I ask
I
you?
think other people should have their opinions on it.
Sure. Yeah, Jeremy. No. No.
Whatever.
All right. On that note. No, you're fine, Larry. All right. Any other questions for Jeremy in regards to the county board part of the budget? Okay, hearing none. So that concludes our departments. That concludes it. We've heard from everybody. Jeremy, do you want to talk about a little bit about the direction we go from here? And we've got meetings in our schedule. Whether we need all of those or not, we'll find out.
Yep, that's right. So, Reed and I have already, Reed's been doing, as Paul said, most of the number crunching. Last Friday we did get together and started going over essentially what looks like a preliminary draft round 2 as we start working through the budget numbers, cleaning things up. There are a lot of discrepancies even within some double inputs and things like that that are going to save us clean up that $1.4 million pretty quickly. I think the practice that's been asked of each department head should be asked year over year of, is this a need? Is it a necessity? What's your priority? And where can we tighten things up? That's not saying that, hey, this is the, in Chairman Olson's term, doom and gloom here. It's a practice that we need to ask every year for each department. So that's, I think, what we're trying to do. I think we have a budget hearing scheduled for the 27th, and that's budget wrap up. And 20th, that's today. Jeez, please. And by that point,
August went poof.
Yeah, we will. Reed, I, Paul, and Jim, we'll probably have sat down again and work through what our preliminary recalculations look like, and then come back together and talk about all those things with you.
And of course, all county board members are encouraged to sit in on these hearings, especially when we come back and be a part of those discussions. And then again, when the budget's presented in October, for September presented, and then always encourage members to weigh in on their thoughts. the changes that we've made, but we'll be absolutely transparent what's contained in the budget, so everybody knows what's going on. So it's a big gap. Yes, it is.
But I don't think this is the first time the county's faced a gap like that. And again, that's why we do these things. You know,
Yeah,
we'll get there.
absolutely. No executive session necessary at this time, I do believe. And does anybody have anything else good for the cause?
Liam, you said you had a question earlier about the 100, I thought it was relating to the 180 days, but I don't know if that was already answered for the elected officials, but if not, then that was the only thing I remembered.
Yeah, it was answered.
Okay,
Paul
nope,
said that
nope.
they still had time. He named the departments that are due for that, in 2020.
In the next cycle.
In the next cycle,
Yeah.
2026, he said.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that
They'll
was
have till May of that year.
just kind of big, when you hear statutorily, you have to do this, and I was like, well, what happened to the 180 days?
Right.
So I do have one thing, Jim. We approved minutes and there were no minutes attached. So,
We approved minutes and there was no minutes attached.
yeah, we did, it was on the agenda as because we always keep it, but we didn't present any minutes. this
Oh,
time
okay.
around.
All right.
So can
So
I
we
scratch
approved something that Mike approved a phantom minutes.
Well, he's just looking, yeah, he was just.
Well, there, yeah, 0 times 0 is 0.
So what do
right?
you need, Becky?
Yeah.
So can I just strike that then?
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Oh, there you go. Motion to adjourn.
Did you do that
Moved
on
by
purpose?
Naylor, seconded by Mimini. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.